Don't make me leave like this. Come on, Murph. Don't make me leave like this, Murph. Hey, I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever. And I'm coming back.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files and the season of Christopher Nolan. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Rocha. I'm a writer, producer, host, and voiceover actor down here in San Diego, California. And Steve, we have finally arrived at the first movie in our season of Nolan, and I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. There are certain films that I feel like, okay, I can handle it. But this is one of those films, kind of like The Godfather and a couple of the films we've tackled, where like there's a real kind of need to fully pay attention and step up to the game here. And I kind of like the challenge, even though I'm a little nervous about it,
I mean, there are movies. I like all the kinds of movies we've covered on the show. And some of them, the price of entry is relatively low, and some of them are a ton of fun. And this one, it's like, no, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff filmmaking wise going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff science wise going on. There's emotionally a lot of stuff and philosophically a lot of ideas. I mean, this is, we're taking a big bite out of something.
I'm looking forward to diving in, brother.
And of course, we couldn't take that bite without all of our supporters on Apple Podcasts, as well as on patreon.com/the Cine-Files, where you can get ad-free versions of the show and listen to our Cine-Files short. And we have a very special Cine-Files short coming out this week. For the first time ever, we brought the short topic to our Cine-Files advisory board and recorded our episode with all of them. And these are some fantastic people who absolutely love film, know a ton, and that conversation was great.
Yeah, 100% agree. It was so much fun to hear what they had to say about it and their responses. And they gave us a lot to think about in our back and forth conversation about the topic that we covered there, which was, just giving a little bit of tease, which was to do with AI and its place and what's going on with some of the requirements for certain movies and things of that nature. So I thought it was a really good discussion. And maybe we'll be doing more of them in the future. We'll see.
I think so. I mean, we did it as an experiment to see how it went, and it went great. So if you're interested in not only supporting the podcast, but actually becoming a part of it and participating in a future Cine-Files short, it's patreon.com/the Cine-Files.
Yeah. And if you want to support our show, if you can't support our show through the Patreon, you can also support our show when you listen to it on the non-ad-free tier. So when you hear the ads, if you hear a goods or service that you want to use or that sparks your interest, we'd appreciate you all using our code because A, you get certain discounts off of it, and then B, you're going to try it out and you signal to these companies to keep coming back and supporting us here on the Cine-Files. And right now, you're going to hear ads for True Diagnostic, for Quince, some great clothes there, Hims, and BetterHelp. So pay attention to that when you listen. If it strikes you or fancy, then please feel free to reach out to them, try out their services, and let us know how it went as well.
And we decided in conversation with our advisory board that the two films of Christopher Nolan we wanted to explore, which was a tough choice, but I'm really glad to where we came to, were going to be Oppenheimer, which we'll tackle in about a month, and Interstellar, which we're working on right now. John, how did you first come to Interstellar?
Yeah, I imagine it was opening weekend. Certainly, probably members of the crew went to go see it together, and I think we saw it at the Chinese theater. I think we saw it there and experienced it there. If not, it was at the Grove, but it was this massive theater going to see it in, and just was utterly blown away by the film. I went back a few times to see it as well because I know it wasn't universally beloved by our group of friends. So I found that to be a curious thing for me. And I kept going back to it because I think it's just one of these films that speaks my language in the way it tackles the things that it tackles and the emotions that it navigates as it's tackling these very intense scientific, philosophical debates. And I just was blown away by this movie. And rewatching it again for our conversation, dare I say 10 years later, I feel like the film is even more appropriate than it was when it was released back then.
So I did not see this in the theater, but my guess is you did see it at the Chinese. And here's why I think that's the case, is that this is when they had just redone the Chinese to turn it in from a regular beautiful movie palace into an IMAX, and showing this film in IMAX in the Chinese was an important thing at this moment. It had just opened up. So I bet you did see it there. I didn't see it. You know, this is when my kid was 2, and we really weren't going out that much. So I waited for it to come on digital. And this is one, man, I regret not being there in the theater with you. So I've never seen it in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. I imagine there's got to be like a appreciation or whatever anniversary coming up where they're going to show this thing in the theaters again, because they've been doing that more and more. I don't know if you noticed that last few years, a lot of these films are getting re-released again because people want to go back and experience them in the theaters again. And these companies or these studios are making money off doing this stuff. So it motivates them to do it even more.
So a bit of pre-production. This movie, I love its origin story, which is, as far as I know, this is the first movie whose mission statement really started with doing real science and never lost that through the whole thing. Because this movie didn't originate with a screenwriter. It didn't originate with a studio executive exactly. It didn't have the regular origin story of a science fiction film. Yeah. This movie started with a scientist, and that guy is Kip Thorne. And Kip Thorne is an expert on gravity. He's a physicist. And Carl Sagan, as he was finishing the book for Contact, reaches out to Kip Thorne to say, hey, how am I doing? What have I gotten right? What have I gotten wrong? Kip gives him some corrections, some changes, which find their way into the book. He becomes friends with Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan and his wife go, we have the perfect girl for you. And they set him up on a blind date. Yes, Interstellar exists because there was a blind date. And the blind date was with movie producer Linda Obst.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And they go out on this blind date and immediately realize we're not into each other, and also realize we really like each other, and they become good friends.
Oh, that's good.
And as they're hanging out, at one point, Kip has made some really important discoveries in gravity, and she said to him, well, now that you've discovered this, what is the one thing you'd like to see more than anything else? And he says, oh, well, that would be a wormhole. Because his research had to do with wormholes and how they operate. And they start talking about wormholes, and they say, let's try to make a real science movie about wormholes and Kip Thorne's research.
Wow.
And Kip and Linda both stay on this project through the whole thing. And the book that I read about the science of Interstellar is written by Kip Thorne. And he goes through the entire movie and discusses, this is what is rock solid science. This is what is probable. We think this is true, but we're not 100% sure. This is what is speculative. And these are the things that are okay. We've gone pretty much into the way speculative area. But he's and the commitment to really do real science stayed throughout the entire project from beginning to end.
Wow. That's amazing. You want to have that kind of spark of excitement and discovery and wonder as a genesis for something like this. It makes sense because that's coursing throughout this movie.
And who gets excited about the idea of this project that wants to direct it? Well, Steven Spielberg.
Yes, of course.
Steven Spielberg is going to be the director of this film Interstellar, and Kip and Linda come up with, a treatment where they sort of outline the story. Spielberg is currently at Paramount. They bring it to Paramount. Paramount is all excited about it. They're moving forward. They decide to bring on as the writer Jonathan Nolan. So strangely enough, he comes on to write the script. He starts working on the screenplay. And while this is happening, Spielberg is in major negotiations because Paramount, I believe at that time, was currently the studio that housed DreamWorks, Spielberg's company. And the question is DreamWorks going to stay at Paramount? And the answer is no. The negotiations fell through. DreamWorks, I believe at that time, moved over to Disney. And now suddenly Spielberg cannot be the director of Interstellar. But here's the thing. As Jonathan Nolan is working on the script, of course, his brother is calling him up and saying, how's that how's that science fiction thing going? Yeah, oh, that sounds interesting. Talks to him about ideas. Oh yeah, you know, I kind of like that idea. Oh, this is really interesting. And strangely enough, as soon as Spielberg was no longer able to direct at Paramount turns immediately to Christopher Nolan, who had apparently been kind of hoping the whole time that he jumped in. And I am not going to say that this is a conspiracy. I don't have any evidence of that, but there was a quote later on from Spielberg who said, yeah, I always knew that Chris was interested in the story. And I was pretty sure he was going to direct it if I ever decided to step away. So I don't know that this was all part of the machinations to get DreamWorks out of Paramount or get Christopher Nolan onto Interstellar. I don't think it was actually all a conspiracy, but boy, it worked out pretty well for all of us.
Hey, some things, they say things happen for a reason, and clearly he was destined to make this movie. And I do think we'd have had a completely different film in Spielberg's hands than the one we have in Nolan's hands. Not that Spielberg doesn't bring up philosophical stuff or debates. I just got out of Disclosure Day a couple of days ago, and certainly there's some of that brought up in the movie, but I just think Nolan loves to go way deeper than Spielberg does. And I think this would have been a completely different movie. And I'm kind of glad that things worked out the way they did, because I think this is, again, as I said, this is one of Nolan's masterpieces in a lot of ways in my mind.
I think Spielberg's version would have been really entertaining and far more conventional.
Yes, probably. Yes.
And it wouldn't push you know I love Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have pushed the envelope in the way that Nolan does. I mean, Nolan goes out there, in a lot of ways,
But I have to feel, I do feel like the ending, and when we get to the ending, probably 4 weeks from now, when we get to the ending, like there is a Spielbergian energy to that ending. So it's an interesting conversation to have if this is something they retained from the conversations with Spielberg when he was around the project. I wonder,
You know what occurs to me? Because this movie has real heart throughout.
Yes.
And I don't know that that's a thing I can say. I'm trying to think if there's any Nolan movie that has heart in this sense.
I would say not like this.
Not the
Batman movies.
Good.
Yeah, not the Batman movies. Not any of the other. Not Oppenheimer. Like we said in our conversation, a lot of his male protagonists are broken people with broken relationships, and so this film is much more about love. And so that's something Nolan doesn't necessarily tackle with his movies. And I'm not saying people aren't in love with each other in his movies, but the way it's handled here is so uniquely different from any of his other movies. So, you're great to point that out, Steve, because I wonder if that's something they retained from the Spielberg contributions and conversations. Because I would argue I don't know that there's any of Jonathan Nolan's scripts other than this one that has that heart right at the center of it.
Well, it's like there certainly is a love story in Inception, but it is a twisted, obsessive, difficult, painful love story as opposed to Cooper and Murph, which is, even though she's angry at him and hates him for a long time, for decades, it's the reason she feels so strongly is because the positive love was so powerful, you know?
Yeah. And the reason he comes back and does what he does is for the love of Murph the whole time.
Yeah.
So
I'd be very curious, but the place that I feel Spielberg the most is this relationship and the ending. You know,
100%.
The problem with Christopher Nolan signing on to direct this movie, he wasn't free. He had a lot of other things going on. So what he did, obviously, this is his brother who's writing the script. They had a lot of conversations, and one of the things that he said, that Christopher Nolan said to both Paramount and in the discussions with his brother, that part of the goal was to make human space flight popular again, to say that, to make the argument of why humans need to continue to go on these journeys of exploration.
Yeah, it's so funny because, we're kind of walking back into that again.
I was thinking that too, yeah.
Right? Like we're seeing this drive to go out into space again and the money being set aside to explore that. Now, whether the goal is to crow about America's greatness, that's a whole debate to be had later on, but you certainly feel that there's this energy that people want to go back out into space again. And certainly the tech bros want to build space stations on Mars and get people there as quickly as possible. So yeah.
But it essentially is 4 years from when Christopher Nolan it becomes the director of record, and when they actually go into production. So Jonathan Nolan had lots of time to really work with these ideas, work with the script, and in particular to do research. So he and Jonathan Nolan enrolled in physics programs at Caltech. So he just went and was taking classes in physics so that he could get his head around all of these things. And let's be real clear, there is a lot to get your head around in Interstellar. Yeah. I mean, the relativistic physics is not that easy to figure out. I'll tell you one of the movies that was really influential on them, and it makes perfect sense, and that is WALL-E. Because it's a movie about Earth and environmental collapse and the need to populate other planets and all of those things. That was stuff that they were looking at a lot. And so Jonathan gets the end of the script, and his brother comes in and reads it, and it sounds like this. And this goes to the point we were making before about the relationship being maybe more part of the Spielbergness. Yeah, is that Christopher loved what he did in the first act of the film, setting up the relationships between Cooper and Murph. And when he stepped in and started doing his own rewrites, it sounds like it was really the space stuff. It was really the second and third acts that he was really trying to tighten it up. And man, this is a tight script and the way they do all this stuff.
Yeah, 100% agree, dude. 100% agree.
Christopher Nolan, which I didn't realize, he is very big on secrecy. He does not want, there's some movies, when I was making The Assistants and we sent stuff out for casting and stuff like that, I got calls from random people who said, "Oh, I just read your script," because my script didn't have any rules about secrecy. But nobody got to, this is, and I'm sure, I don't know if you've had to deal with this, but, where literally the messenger comes over, makes you sign a waiver while you read the script, the messenger waits for you. Yeah. And then you give it back to them. I mean, that sounds like that's how Interstellar was.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we had to read the Black Panther script at Marvel because at the time when I was working at Collider, they wanted us to come up with a campaign to sell energy drinks connected to Black Panther. So me and my friend David Griffin and our former boss there at Collider, Mark Fernandez, they invited us to Marvel, and we had to go through this whole rigmarole. And we were put in a room. It was like Citizen Kane. We were put in a room and we were given 2 hours to read the script, and it never left the room. And so it's those kinds of things that you have to kind of go through when secrecy is super important to companies or directors. And yeah, it was a mind-bending experience to be in a room reading the Black Panther script, which was a lot different than the film that was shot. So it's fascinating,
I'm just picturing you and all the Collider guys in that vault from Citizen Kane in black and white reading the Black Panther script.
Yeah, just the three of us sitting there. Yeah, no conversations either. We couldn't talk to each other at all. It was insane. Yeah.
So obviously, all directors have influences, but it sounds like Christopher Nolan specifically is thinking about other movies as he's getting started to kind of frame things right. Unsurprisingly, here are some of the movies he's thinking about: Metropolis.
Yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey, obviously.
Yeah.
Blade Runner, Alien, and then Tarkovsky's Mirror, which I have never seen.
Oh, I've never seen that either.
Certainly makes sense. The Right Stuff. But then the other movies that he was thinking about, I find super interesting, which is Treasure of the Sierra Madre and Jaws. And those were people out on an adventure away from civilization. And the other thing that Treasure of the Sierra Madre and Jaws have in common is one person going crazy.
Right. That makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense to me too.
Yeah.
I would like to do something that I don't think I've ever done on the Cine-Files before, which is I want to repeat something. I don't know if everyone listening listened to our breakdown on Christopher Nolan. I felt like we had a great conversation.
Yeah.
But one of the stories was an Interstellar story, and I want to say it again just because I think it's so interesting. Maybe I can frame it in a slightly different way. Is that, again, everyone's heard me say this many times, like the one myth that I would like to continue to explode as in the decades of us doing the Cine-Files is the myth of the godlike director who has the movie totally in their head and just has to create it. That's never true. It's not true with Kubrick. It's not true with Hitchcock, that there is no way for a human to know everything. And what Nolan does, it's so interesting. What he wants to do is that it's not that he tells all the people working under him what he wants.
Right.
Is that he challenges them in ways so they come back at him with things that Nolan can't expect.
Wow.
That's the different thing. And this is the story that I told before, but it's about working with Hans Zimmer, is that they just worked on all the Batman movies, and he wanted to go a different direction. And one of the things that he had been doing with him already, also on Inception, was not doing a traditional spotting session, but to actually just create themes and then organically figure out where to use these themes in the movie. And then he did this thing for Interstellar, whereas he said, I've got a movie that I want you to do with me. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to write a little short story and give it to you, and I want you to read it and come up with the themes. And Hans went, well, is this story what the movie's based on? And he said, no, this is just a story. And he wrote this story about a father and a son, and a father having to say goodbye to go to work or something like that.
Right.
And gave it to Hans, and Hans wrote a bunch of themes and came back. And only after he had written those themes did Nolan say, this is it's a father and a daughter, and this is what Interstellar is about. And what's so great about that, and why I felt compelled to tell the story twice, is the whole point of it is to make Hans Zimmer create something that Nolan doesn't expect.
Yeah, to push him, to challenge him, and
Exactly.
to see, like, how can I see? Because I mean, if you're creative, and you know this, Steve, as a director yourself, having worked with people who are the heads of separate departments, like how they see the movie can be different than the way you see the movie. But you are the end all be all as the director. But if you're open to collaboration, there's elements of how they see the movie that will adjust how you see the movie, and it might open up a whole new way to look at the movie and direct the movie and highlight certain things you hadn't thought of, which happens. And so this is such a smart way to do things. So you have the purity of their reaction to what you've given to them. And maybe there's something there you might have missed, which will only enhance, if you apply that to what you've already done, enhance what you've done, so it's so smart.
Well, he's creating something for them to react to so that they create something for him to react to.
Right.
Is that he's asking for the unexpected. He's asking to be challenged. He's challenging them creatively, and they're challenging him back. Yeah. And then more things are created. It is the antithesis of the genius director who has figured everything out, which isn't to say that he's not a genius. And one little bit about it, the reason that he gave him a story about a father and a son is because Hans Zimmer has a son. He wants to tap into, so he's looking just like you would with an actor, and working with a composer often is as close to working with an actor in terms of that sort of creative language you have to create between them, is that you're looking for what will unlock their best stuff,
Right. 100%.
Yeah. And he does this in all of the departments. The shoot begins on August 6th, 2013 in Alberta, in Canada. And would you like to get into Interstellar?
Wow, already. All right, let's do it. Let's go.
Movie starts. We have I love it whenever movies transform the logos of all the studios, and the fact that this is all in sepia is great. I just love that. And we hear the sound of wind, and we fade in on this bookshelf. This bookshelf is one of the most important and visually recognizable locations in the film. And we see dust falling, and the dust is falling on the models of the space shuttle. And it's, within the first, 6 seconds, here's the themes of the film. We have the blight. We have the mission to space to save the planet is in that image of dust. Yeah. And of course, the dust is also the gravity waves, and it's also Cooper, all of this is in this first image.
Well, my dad was a farmer, like everybody else back then.
And we're looking at Ellen Burstyn.
Yeah, the great Ellen Burstyn. I mean, what can you say? Alice doesn't live here anymore. The Exorcist, so many things that she was a part of. And I love that they got her to be a part of the movie, because you start off with her, you establish a kind of groundedness here, and then we're going to get to people with a slice of life type of approach to what is going on. And so it immediately gives credibility to their remembrances. And you're immediately buying into what's being told,
Of course, he didn't start that way.
And suddenly, we're on this plane or ship or something. We're with a pilot. We don't quite know what's going on. And then everything starts to shake. And by the way, later on in the movie, we'll learn that this is one of the first pieces of evidence of the gravity waves that are hitting the Earth. But we don't know what's going on at this moment. Right. And then suddenly we do the classic waking up from the bad dream and see Matthew McConaughey.
Dad?
Well, this is a nice little window to give us like a subconscious foreshadowing of who this guy is, right? Because he's a pilot. And there was a warning. This is very much the Maverick story. Maverick, you can't go to 10. You can't go to 10, right? The opening of Top Gun Maverick. And he takes it to 10, past 10, and then the ship blows up, right? And so you see that here in essence because he's pushing that boundary. So you know he's an adventurer. You know he's a risk taker, right? Just subconsciously. But you also know because of how he wakes up that this is a terrible memory. And the way it ends, that this is something that haunts him, you know?
By the way, I don't think he does push it to 10 because I actually think what goes on here is he wants to push it in 10, but the robot version of TARS or whatever doesn't let him, and that's why it crashes.
But he wants to, is what I'm saying.
He wants to, absolutely.
Right.
No, it's So you know how frequently when we do movies, I will say, John, would you like to know some of the other people up for this part?
Yeah.
I have zero information of that. I have heard that Nolan wanted McConaughey basically from the beginning.
Wow.
But and there are no stories anywhere else. He says he wanted Anne Hathaway. He obviously wanted Michael Caine. And that doesn't mean there aren't stories about alternate. I just don't have any of them. And then we see he looks up and there is young Murphy played by Mackenzie Foy.
Go back to bed, man.
I thought you were the ghost.
Yeah, Mackenzie Foy didn't go on to do a lot of stuff after this necessarily. You know, she had been established already in the Twilight films, playing the character of Renesmee. I hope I'm saying that right. For you Twilight people, please don't come for me. Or maybe it's Rensmee. But she showed up in a few more films after this, like Little Prince, Jess Stone, Nutcracker in the Four Realms, Black Beauty, and recently, last year, in Conjuring the Last Rites as Cindy Perron. But she's also very big into horses. So I checked out her social media just to give a little more background on her. She's very much into horses. So an interesting actress, an interesting person as well. And I love her in this movie, dude. Love her in this movie.
I was going to say the same thing. I think this is a fantastic kid performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, really good.
No such thing as ghosts, babe.
Grandpa says you can get ghosts.
Yeah, maybe that's because Grandpa's a little too close to being one himself.
I love that line.
Which I think is funny. And this is one of the keys of this movie is that, you know, we've said before this idea that all stories are mysteries.
Yeah.
And this one, it is so perfect at laying out just enough information to keep you interested and involved, but without we don't get exposition dumps for a long, long time. You know, Nolan's going to pull you along.
Were you dreaming about the crash?
Hit your butt back in bed, Murph.
I love this opening scene between them, Steve, because we're going to find out, because you can watch this in retrospect, right? We're going to find out that they have a very strong bond. You know, Murph and Cooper, they just have a very strong bond. She does, in essence, exactly what he did in that dream. He keeps telling her to go back to sleep. She keeps pushing to get the answers. She keeps pushing him. And listen, this could be a throwaway scene, and some of you may think it's a throwaway scene, but to me, I think this is good screenwriting in a way that gives us an idea of their relationship. She goes past two or three statements past him saying, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed. She keeps asking for more information. So just like him, she has this need for information, like a scientific brain, this need to get answers. And she almost leaves when she leaves the scene on her terms equal with him. And I think that's something that's to think about in their relationship and why she becomes who she becomes in the course of things as the film goes along.
There are a million things that are great about this movie. Great special effects, great cinematography, incredible music. All that's true.
Yeah.
The heart of it is this relationship.
Yes.
And the key to it, I can't think of anywhere else in film that I have a better example of kindred spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Murph and Cooper are they are the same in some fundamental way and understand each other in some deep and fundamental way.
I think that's why it devastates her when he leaves. Like, you know, fathers leave children in movies all the time. We see that because they got to go do things. This one is one that really carries because there was a sense where she feels like a piece of her has literally been carved off of her, which is something she's upset about. Yeah.
So Cooper gets up, he looks out the window, and we see, the cornfields. And as he's looking, we hear the sounds of the organ rising up, the big church pipe organ, which is central musically to this whole film. This is a Christopher Nolan idea. He goes to Hans Zimmer, and I always think of Hans Zimmer. I mean, Hans Zimmer loves real musicians and real instruments, but I always think of him sort of as the bridge between the synthesized world of music and the real world of music. Yeah. And he knows how to bring those things together beautifully. But when Christopher Nolan comes to him and says, I'm thinking pipe organs, Hans Zimmer goes like, I've never touched a pipe organ. I don't know how he knows basically what they are, but he's never worked with them at all. And Nolan says there's something about the pipe organ, and obviously it's connected to religion, that feels like the great mystery of the universe. It feels expansive. It feels religious. It feels fundamentally different. So essentially Nolan sends Hans Zimmer out on a journey to learn about pipe organs. Wow. Which he does. And they are these fascinating because these are instruments that are literally the size of buildings. Like the whole building is the instrument. And it is as far from computers as you could imagine. This is a giant physical machine. And again, Nolan doesn't know what Hans Zimmer is going to discover on his learning about pipe organs. He doesn't know what direction he's going to go. He just has this feeling about pipe organs and sends Hans Zimmer off to study them.
Like you said, artistic sensibility is there. I know I want this. You're going to compose my movie. I want you to explore this for me. Right. And you trust someone like Zimmer to get it right, Well,
and it's possible that Zimmer comes back and says, I fucking hate pipe organs.
What is this crap?
And then you don't go in that direction, like
exactly.
Or you make the decision, are pipe organs more important to me than Hans Zimmer?
Right.
Like, do I want to force Hans Zimmer to do this thing that he doesn't like? These are all decisions directors have to make.
And this is crazy for people to think about, but when you're at this realm of talent, none of us would go to Hans Zimmer and be like, will you go look at this? And, and whatever Hans Zimmer said when he came back, we'd be like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
but like
whatever
Nolan,
you say.
Yeah, whatever you say. But Nolan probably knows Zimmer so well that he's like, go explore this. Trust me on this, right? He knows that Zimmer will find something there to use in the score. And so sometimes when you're at that level, the people at that level see you as equal and treat you as an equal and will absolutely show you something that you may not have thought, as great as you are, you may not have thought to look at.
Well, and the thing too is part of what you're doing when you're directing, when you're working on a film, is you're developing a relationship. You're developing a method of communication, a sense of who that other person is, and a sense of what gets them creatively excited. Yeah. Because the great artists want to be challenged. They want to be a little afraid. They want to be put in a situation that they don't quite know what they're going to do, because that's where you create stuff, you know?
The wheat had died. The blight came and we had to burn it. And we still had corn. We had acres of corn. But mostly we had dust.
And now we see the dust rolling across the plains. And of course, to film this, they wanted to see what the Dust Bowl really looked like, or what dust really looked like in these circumstances. And so they went to Ken Burns' documentary on the Dust Bowl and really studied it, studied the images from that era, studied how the crops look, how the houses look. And so a lot of this, the visuals we are seeing is inspired by Ken Burns' exploration of the Dust Bowl in the 30s.
I think some of the people we see clips from are from that documentary, talking about the remembrances of the Dust Bowl and what have you. Also, Nolan grew 500 acres of corn because he had done that for Man of Steel. And so they grew it and then they sold it. So like it wasn't thrown away, So he really wanted authenticity here. And there's something really audacious and unsettling about that, but ballsy as fuck, in my opinion.
It's funny. We did another movie where they grew a lot of corn for the film, and that, of course, is Field of Dreams. I remember in that one, they said, we got to grow this corn fast. We're going to put extra water on it. And the farmers said, well, if you put extra water on it, that you won't get ears of corn. Like it doesn't work that way. I don't understand the farming of it. And they said, and they were like, well, we don't want ears of corn. We just want stalks. And this one, they're at like 4,100 feet at, way up in Alberta.
Right.
And they go to the farmers and they're like, we don't think corn will even grow here. It's too windy. It's too cold. There's not enough sun. And so they plant as you said, 500 acres of corn, and it is not coming in. And it sounds like it came in all of a sudden.
Oh, wow.
Near the end when they're doing it.
I guess I can't describe it. It was just constant, just that steady blow of dirt.
I just want to go back to what you said about the interview footage coming from Ken Burns' documentary.
Yeah.
I never knew that. And it ended up that he called up Ken Burns and said, can we use this footage? So then what they're doing is that they have to make the Ellen Burstyn footage match the way Ken Burns shot his interviews. And I just think it is so brilliant because it obviously feels so real as you're hearing these interviews. Well, because it is real. This is people actually talking about their lives.
We wore little strips of sheet with sometimes over our nose and mouth so we wouldn't read so much of it.
And I have a feeling that Nolan knew that a majority, 95% of the people who watched this movie would not have watched the Dust Bowl documentary on Ken Burns. That's such a distinct and niche thing in the history of our country that I think it would only be a select few people who would actually watch it on PBS.
Well, when we set the table, we always set the plate upside down, glasses or cups, whatever it was, upside down.
Which is what we see them doing.
Just the idea of setting the table. I haven't set a table in decades. Just the idea of setting
I occasionally set the table. Part of it is having a kid.
Well, yes, right.
I don't want him to grow up as a complete savage. But it is funny because, I was in some fairly formal eating situations when I was a kid. And so it was very serious. I was taught this fork versus that fork versus which way. If I set the table and the knife blade was pointing out instead of pointing in, and of course, we're on the right side of the plate. Only a barbarian would put the knife on the left side of the plate. Like I was told, you have to go around and reverse all those knives. That is not correct. Yeah. It was, and my kid knows none of these things.
Yeah.
But then the moment as we're seeing what looks like, the 1930s Dust Bowl as they're setting the table, we also see them wiping the dust off a laptop.
Yeah.
And again, this movie is like, wait, what's going on? Where the mystery is so powerful. We're having breakfast. This house, by the way, was built for the film in Calgary. And part of it is because they had shot Man of Steel and Smallville was up in Calgary. And they went, well, this is going to be perfect for this stuff in Interstellar.
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
And then we see one of my favorite actors. I don't know if we've had a lot of movies with him on the Cine-Files, but John Lithgow, he can do it all. He really can.
Yeah. Such a fantastic actor. And again, my first film I ever saw was R-rated was A World According to Garp. And he was great in that. Yeah,
that's my first one of his.
Yeah, and it was great to see him in that. And now he's going to be Dumbledore. So we'll see how that series plays out in a few months for sure. So yeah, if you can't, you got the two standards, didn't you? John Lithgow and Michael Caine. You got the two veteran older actors to come in and deliver their lines.
But both of whom can do comedy, can do drama, can do both of whom have these really fascinating ranges.
Yeah.
And we also see, which I had forgotten, I'm sure you had remembered, but we get a young Timothée Chalamet playing Tom.
Yeah. With the appropriate defensiveness and pugnacious energy that he always brings to his role. So that's essentially who he is. And he's, of course, currently cheering on the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. For those who've been watching those games, he's been on the sidelines in San Antonio and in New York with Spike Lee and Ben Stiller going crazy there. But yeah, of course, recently didn't win the Oscar for Marty Supreme, which I still think he deserved. So,
I don't know. So a lot of good actors this year. That was a tough category. But he's great. He's great. And Murph comes in with the broken lander, which was broken by the ghost.
What the heck did you do to my lander?
It wasn't me.
Let me guess. It was your ghost?
It knocked it off my shelf. Keeps on knocking the books off.
No such thing as a ghost, dumbass.
And we think that we're going to get into sort of a normal father-daughter, the kid is superstitious, and that's what we're going to deal with. But we really don't go in that direction.
And I think it's fascinating because Nolan here is mixing a lot of things, right? We're seeing the relationship and the love. We're seeing the dust, so the groundedness of nature and its effect on human beings. We're seeing him flip open the computer, so technology, and on the screen, there's all kinds of things and data and all these calculations happening. And then we're talking about ghosts. So there's a lot of different things that are coursing through this opening that are keeping us on our toes to keep on top, or to remember and keep on top of.
Wow, it's not very scientific, Murph.
You said science is about admitting what we don't know.
Just got you there.
What's interesting, I think they established the relationship with Donald, which is the John Lithgow character, really beautifully, which is, this is unquestionably a family.
Yeah.
That genuinely cares about each other.
Yeah.
And Donald doesn't like every single thing about Cooper, and Cooper does not like every single thing about Donald, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And Cooper's, it seems he's about to disengage with Murph's ghost talk when Donald kind of gestures at her, like, be a dad for a moment. And he realizes he needs to. He sits down and he says,
Murph, you want to talk science? Don't just tell me that you're afraid of some ghost. No, you got to go further. You got to record the facts, analyze, get to the how and the why, then present your conclusions. Deal?
Deal.
I think that sentence plots the path of her future life.
Yes. And I also think, again, we're constructing character, right? With Cooper. Cooper in the dream, wanting to push it to the edge.
Yep.
Cooper here is ready to just go off and do what he needs to do without addressing the situation with Murph, the extra bit he needs to take to make that connection, to make the human connection with Murph, because he's caught in the ghost. Again, I feel like these protagonists reflect Nolan. And I'm sure Nolan has at times walked out of a room when his children were needing that extra bit of affection or extra bit of conversation because he's so focused on doing what he's doing. It doesn't mean he's disrespectful to his kids. It's just that he's caught up with achieving the thing he needs to achieve. So I think there's an element of that that's here as well, like with all of his male protagonists and their kind of broken relationships at times, you know?
I think in really good movies, the themes go all the way down top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Cooper is an explorer at his heart. He's always moving forward.
Yeah.
And explorers are fundamentally about the future.
Yes.
They are about what's over the next horizon.
Getting to it. Yes.
Getting
100%.
to it.
Yep.
And that is contrasting with the farmer. And the farmer is about here and now. It is stuck in one place, literally, to the land. And the tension between the farmer and the explorer is central to this whole movie. Cooper, you know, and so, no, be here where you are. And of course, he did go become the explorer, which is his biggest regret, was that he didn't stay.
Yes.
You know, like, that's what I mean, is that the themes go all the way up and down throughout the whole film.
Yeah. This scene is almost a microcosm of what's going to happen in way bigger ways in a few minutes. Yeah.
And now he wants to rush off and do something. And Donald says,
Hold up. Parent-teacher conferences. Parent, not grandparent.
which again is a line that holds multitudes, because what it says is 95% of the time, Donald has been in charge of the kids and getting them to school, not him. Yep.
And I imagine that's the way his wife was too. And so Cooper is this guy who is going to the next thing constantly. Because as you said, he's driven to explore. Again, I think this is a reflection of Nolan. And someone is having to bring him back. Someone is having to remind him of responsibilities and things of that nature to the people who he's family with, you know? And so I love that Donald calls him out. In another film, you just jump past this scene. But this scene is important to establish the relationships throughout the whole movie.
So now we're outside and we see that there's smoke in a distance.
Nelson's torching his whole crop.
Blight?
They're saying it's the last harvest for okra. Ever.
In our discussion of Christopher Nolan, we talked about this idea that he has of things not being linear, and it made the metaphor of a news story where you read the headline with the summary, and then you read some background, and then you read more detail, and then later on you read a book about it, and that we're getting information is coming in drips and drabs in a non-linear way. Yeah. That's how this movie is doing exposition. We hear this thing about blight and last okra ever, and it's like, wait, again, we're going, what is going on? We have one more little piece of information, but we don't understand the whole picture at all yet, but it keeps us engaged. So, and then just as he's leaving, Donald says to him,
Well, you be nice to that Miss Hanley. She's single.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
Repopulating the earth. Start pulling your weight, young man.
Why don't you start minding your own business? Oh, man.
So we're driving off to school, and he's having Murph do the gear changes, which is, again, another little sign of how he's keeping her engaged and wants her to understand and learn things, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Tom makes fun of her when she grinds a gear, and then we have a flat tire.
What'd you do, Murph?
She didn't do nothing. Blew the tires off.
Murphy's Law.
Shut up!
Grab the spare, Tom.
That is the spare.
Get the patch kit.
How am I supposed to patch out here?
Oh, you gotta figure it out. I'm not always gonna be here to help you.
Which is true.
A little
You know?
tease. A little tease. Yep.
No, I mean, again, another sign to me of a great film. There's nothing wasted here. Every line is here for a reason.
Yep. Even the relationship between Tom and Murph. You know,
Absolutely.
the ball busting sibling relationship that's there. Yeah.
What's going on, Murph?
Why did you and Mom name me after something that's bad?
Well, we didn't.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law doesn't mean that something bad will happen. What it means is that whatever can happen will happen, and that sounded just fine with us.
It's awesome.
And then a drone, shockingly, flies overhead.
Get in. Get in, let's go.
What about the flat tire?
No, they're just going to drive on that flat. And again, we're going, what the hell is going on? Like,
Right.
what is this? What's happening here? They're driving, chasing the drone, and now they turn into the cornfields.
Yeah.
And the thing about this is they're really driving blind. There is no way for the stunt driver to understand where he's going.
Oof.
And which means it's hard to coordinate with cameras and everything else they have to do. So what they finally did was they have a helicopter that's hovering above the truck, just behind it, that's essentially spotting for the truck. So the driver, who is blind, is on the radio, and the helicopter is saying 3 degrees left, straighten it out. Okay, now this, and telling him how to drive through this cornfield.
Yikes. Yikes.
As they're driving, we hear that this is an Indian Air Force drone, and that the solar power, it has big solar cells, and it's going to be really useful. But it's still exciting. He switches seats with Tom while driving. They're aiming at this thing. There's obviously something they're trying to do. We don't know what it is. And then we look up, and they're like heading towards a cliff.
Yeah. You almost got it. Don't stop. Don't stop. Dad!
And finally, Dad looks up, and they stop right at the edge.
You told me to keep driving.
Well, I guess that answers the old if I asked you to drive off a cliff scenario.
Which A, is funny, and B, I think reveals character, which is, what is Tom? What do we find about Tom? Tom is stubborn. Tom will literally keep doing the same action, even if it costs everything, and not turn. That is what's going to be happening with him later on in the film.
We lost it.
No, we didn't.
And we realize he's somehow taking control of that drone with his with the laptop. He flies it, and then he has Murph fly it.
Want to give the world?
Which is really cool. We land the thing.
How long do you think it's been up there?
Delhi mission control went down same as ours 10 years ago.
It's been up there 10 years? Why'd it come down so low?
I don't know. Either the sun cooked its brain or it was looking for something.
Is this saying that is this part of the whole plan? This solar drone landing, or did it just get hit by a gravity wave? Or
It's a good question. At this point, I don't know what it is, right? But I think it's all meant to show how adept Cooper is, how quick and smart he is, how much Murphy is inspired and excited by that as well, and influenced by it. But also, that he has no problem, he has no problem violating the rules, whether it's driving on a broken tire or taking possession of some country's other technology. He has no problem doing all that because he has an intention for it, and he thinks he has a right to it, which is interesting.
Yeah, he is an active guy. He is always going to be doing something.
Can't we just let it go? It wasn't hurting anybody.
This thing needs to learn how to adapt, Murph. Like the rest of us.
Again, no wasted lines, you know?
Yep.
We arrive at school. Tom is heading off, but says,
This one needs to wait.
What did you do?
They'll tell you about it when you get in there.
Bro, I'm not gonna be mad.
Not with me. Just please try not to.
Hey, relax. I got this.
again, the silent understanding that she knows that he is not going to be mad at her, but he is going to be furious at the school.
Yeah.
We go into the office and we see David Oyelowo and Colette Wolfe to greet him.
David Oyelowo, of course, who famously played Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, one of the greatest films about the Kings themselves here. But he's done recently did Lawman Bass Reeves. He was a voiceover on the American Revolution there. He did a Apple TV show recently called Government Cheese. He's done a number of things over the last few years, and certainly a name that everybody is getting to know more and more as the work that he does. And Colette Wolfe, some of you may remember from Hot Tub Time Machine. She is the one that hooks up with Cordry's character and births the young geeky kid with glasses. But she's also been in young adult Observe and Report You're the Worst. She was a recurring character on You're the Worst, which is a series that a lot of people seem to like. I couldn't get into it, but a lot of people seem to like. But yeah, she worked a lot through the last 20 some years here in the business and being a part of it. And I like her in this. She's an interesting choice. And man, this dialogue in this scene could be happening today. It's insane.
Well, and you say you like her in this, and as an actor, I like her in this too.
Yes, yeah.
As
that's
a
what
character, I do not like her.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
exactly.
God.
Also, with this character, you're so right. Do we like this character? We don't like this character. But remember, Donald had said to him, it's time to find somebody. You've got to populate the earth, right? And this is who is the single teacher he was referring to. And so, right? So we're walking into this scene thinking, is this going to be a flirty scene? And it becomes anything but.
I had never connected that this was the person that Donald is suggesting he flirts with. Of course. No, it makes it better. We hear that Tom's got his scores back, and they say that he's going to make an excellent farmer.
What about college?
Well, the university only takes a handful. They don't really have the resources.
I still pay my taxes. And where's that money go? There's no more armies.
So no more armies. It's another little piece of this puzzle. Yeah. And then also this thing about university.
Look, Coop, you have to be realistic.
You're ruling my son out for college now? The kid's 15.
Tom's score simply isn't high enough.
I love Cooper's tactic. His next move is really funny.
What's your waistline? Oh, what, 32? I'm about 33 inseam.
I'm not sure I see what you're getting at.
Are you telling me it takes 2 numbers to measure your own ass, but only 1 to measure my son's future?
That's a great line, man.
Yeah. But again, Cooper pushing back. Cooper saying, no, I don't want to accept what you've given me. This is what I want. And the thing is, this is very reminiscent of what you hear about that goes on in communist countries. Well, we're not going to educate them past this. This is very reminiscent of like Soviet Union. They had that situation as well, where if you didn't show promise at a certain age, they moved you into the agriculture section. You were not there was no later on you develop an intelligence for this kind of stuff. It was very controlled. And so to see these kinds of words going, or this kind of back and forth happening in an American scenario is a little unsettling. And considering what we've been through for the last 10 years with COVID and now what we're seeing with some of these restrictions and controls being put on through the government, there's a lot here that feels now more realistic than fantastical when I watched this movie in 2014, sadly so.
Well, and what's happening, we're going there are no more armies now. Yeah. So something really, really big is happening. The university can only take a small handful of people and everybody, and we already heard everyone is a farmer now. And so it's okay, what the hell is going on? And it is true that when resources are in trouble, that governments have to make, decisions. Mm-hmm. They have to do some triage in certain ways and say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. That makes sense up to a certain point, you know?
I know. No, I agree. Yeah, exactly. And people are going to push back on it because it's not going to be my kid. It'll be the other person's kid. But that's what everyone thinks, you know, and so it becomes a battle.
I really like this moment.
Come on. You're a well-educated man, Coop, and a trained pilot.
And an engineer.
That identity is real important to him, I think.
Yeah. Because that's why I think that line he said earlier to Murph about, well, we all need that thing needs to adapt just like we do. If there's anyone who has not adapted to this world, it is Coop. No matter what he says, he became a farmer, but I think he begrudgingly became a farmer. I think he bitches about it all the time. And so this idea that everyone should adapt, he's not adapting himself. You know?
Well, and to be clear, the way the world is adapting, they will all die. The only people that are going to save them are the engineers.
Yes.
You know, like that, the scientists, the people moving forward. This is like the anti-Krypton. On Krypton, the Science Council doomed them.
Yeah.
And here it's like, no, that's who we need. But that's not what the principle says.
Okay, well, right now, we don't need more engineers. We didn't run out of television screens and planes. We ran out of food. The world needs farmers. Good farmers like you and Tom.
Uneducated farmers.
Because what we're about to find out is this world, it isn't just that they're saying we only have so many resources to educate so many people.
Yeah.
They have a whole bunch of lies that we don't even know the half of.
Yeah.
That is how they're educating.
Yeah.
And Cooper's ready to go.
Yeah.
But Tom was just the appetizer. Now we get to move on to Murph. And after saying some very nice compliments about Murph, she says that she's had some trouble.
She brought this in to show the other students the section on the lunar landings.
Yeah, it's one of my old textbooks. She always loved the pictures.
It's an old federal textbook. We've replaced them with the corrected versions.
Corrected?
Explaining how the Apollo missions were fake to bankrupt the Soviet Union.
It's hard. It's hard watching this.
What did I tell you? It's so insane to watch the movie now in 2026 when there are so many people invested in pushing misinformation and lies about our history, to whitewash our history, to change our history. And here we have a young white blonde woman pushing this narrative of, no, this is the real reason. And we see happening in all these other states and in all these other school systems that they're trying to push fake history, fake past stories to push their own narratives. And that's what you have here. It's really unsettling, this scene. Whereas the scene was like funny in 2014 as like something that could never happen or fantastical. Now it feels very much more real and unsettling with just the simple exchange about like, oh, it's ridiculous to think we ever landed on the moon, like, you know, this kind of stuff. And so she is clearly a conspiracy theorist or is happily pushing the government decided narratives about this situation.
Several thoughts. The first thing is, I don't know that she is a conspiracy theorist or pushing a government narration. She might just believe this is the truth.
Yes, I guess. Sure.
I mean, because the truth is whatever people tell you is the truth. I mean, how you find out the truth, I mean, there is real truth, but how we find out about it is someone says, this is how this works. You know, Betsy Ross sewed the flag and George Washington threw a silver dollar over the Potomac.
Well,
and,
I guess that's what we'd have to know is like, when did this new reality come into existence? How many generations has this new reality been in existence? It's a good point you make.
Well, this is one of the weird things about this movie, and it's a very specific choice by Christopher Nolan, and I think it pays all sorts of strange dividends.
Yeah,
which is that normally when you're designing a science fiction world, a world of the future, you make it look like the future.
Yes,
and he made the very clear choice to make this look like ordinary today.
Yeah.
And to not give, and the technological cues is like, well, we see laptops and we see
drones.
What he wanted. Yeah. He wanted technology that was a whole range of technology. And so the idea is like, this was just very, very human, our world.
Yeah.
And some technology has been invented since then, since the blight started. Some hasn't. And a lot of it is reused old technology. When they get onto the ships and how they're designed, they kept that going with some of this seems super modern and high tech, and some of it is switches and feels very mechanical because Nolan didn't want to go, this is 2028 and this is how it works. You know, he wanted it to feel like us. And so how long this has been going on Like, it's possible that Donald is my age and was born in 1968, and this is now 2035 or 2040. It's also possible Donald was born in 2000 or 2150. We don't really know.
Right.
You know,
doing some research for this, one of the people who analyzed the film speculated that Donald is of the millennial generation.
Right.
Because he talks about the ball players and stuff like that when my day. And so, it may be right in your assumption that he could be your age when this all went down, and now it's all this time later. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, just in terms of things that are going on today, is I could tell two stories about Thomas Jefferson, both entirely filled with facts that were totally, totally different, but both of them are accurate. You know what I mean? One could focus on on Thomas Jefferson, the scholar and the scientist and the statesman, and one could focus on him as the slave owner.
Right.
And they're both completely factual. Whether or not we landed on the moon is not that one of those is not factual. One of those is a complete lie that's going on, and his reaction to this is powerful.
You don't believe we went to the moon?
I believe it was a brilliant piece of propaganda that the Soviets bankrupted themselves, pouring resources into rockets and other useless machines.
It's the useless machines at the end of that line.
Yeah. Like, this is rough because you hear, in my opinion, the bullshit narratives that are out there to explain some of the things from our past or some of the things we did. And I go insane when I see it, because we know the truth. We know the truth. And people create false narratives in order to push their own agendas. And it's mind-blowing,
You're saying Stanley Kubrick didn't fake the moon landing?
That's right. He didn't fake the moon landing. I loved it. And look, recently we had those astronauts, right, who went out into space, and they were confronted in the hallways of Congress by conspiracy theorists who yelled at them saying it was a false flag operation. I mean, this is what we're dealing with now, is this breakdown of intelligence, and we're lifting up people who are proudly unintelligent about this stuff or proudly believe conspiracy theories about this stuff. And you might be right. She's young enough that she could have been born when the narratives were changed, and she just grew up knowing or believing that the truth was that we never landed on the moon, and that was this was a whole thing to defund the Soviets or break them economically.
Well, and like all good bullshit, it has a sliver of truth. Part of what broke the Soviet Union was them trying to keep up in the space race.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's what's so funny to me about the people confronting those astronauts is as they're posting up on their social media, they're using their cell phones, which could not exist without the space program.
Exactly.
Like so much of our world is dependent upon the space program having been real.
Right.
Like satellite TV is not fake. You're getting the TV.
Yeah. You can't. Yeah, exactly.
Useless machines.
And if we don't want a repeat of the excess and wastefulness of the 20th century, then we need to teach our kids about this planet, not tales of leaving it.
Which A, is the whole theme of the movie. Like, again, we're right on the film. And B, I think it does tap into a whole bunch of people who think there were all sorts of environmental excesses in the 20th century that go,
Yeah, true.
And today, if you asked me, should we invest our time in saving our planet or finding a way to leave it? I would say we should invest our time in saving our planet.
I agree with that.
And again, his comebacks. Every one of his comebacks with these guys, I love.
One of those useless machines they used to make was called an MRI. And if we had any of those left, the doctors would have been able to find the cyst in my wife's brain before she died instead of afterwards. And then she'd have been the one sitting there listening to this instead of me, which would have been a good thing because she was always the calmer one.
What's so great, it ties perfectly to Murph telling him not, he says, am I getting mad? Not at me. Like, she knew exactly what was going to happen here.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm sorry about your wife, Mr. Cooper. But Murph got into a fistfight with several of her classmates over this Apollo nonsense. So we thought it would be best to bring you in and see what ideas you might have for dealing with her behavior on the home front.
I've been in this meeting with a teacher or a principal, and this is like, okay. And my response is always, all right, here is how I will get my kid to behave, or I'm going to work on getting my kid to behave better because I take the school's issues seriously. I want my kid to be socially, correct. I don't want him to create a disruption at the school. So yes, this is that is not where Cooper goes.
No.
He tells them his plan. And again, I love it.
Yeah, you know what? There's a game tomorrow night. She's going through a bit of a baseball phase. Her favorite team's playing. There's gonna be candy and soda. I think I'll take her to that.
Great. Love this guy. Love him as a dad. It's great.
Yeah. And Miss Hanley's reaction is one of like shock, right? Like she's not used to having a parent who would not do this, right?
Because to be real clear, what he just said is, yes, my way of dealing with this is to reward her for her good behavior in protecting the truth.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Back to the car, he's whistling.
How'd it go?
I got you suspended.
What?
And then right on this happens, we get a call on the CB that something's going wrong with the combines that apparently, because Cooper is the engineer that he's been in charge of, goes out to the farm. We see this big, what looks like robotic sort of farm equipment, all acting strangely.
One by one, they've been peeling off the fields and heading over. Something's interfering with the compass.
But of course, I think we know what's going wrong with the compass is it's gravity waves.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that's causing everything to go wrong.
Yeah.
Walks into the house. It feels kind of creepy when he gets back to the house here to me.
Yeah.
Hears noise upstairs, goes into Murph's room.
I counted the spaces.
What?
In case the ghost is trying to communicate. I'm trying Morse.
Morse?
Yeah. Dots and dashes used.
I know what Morse code is, Murph. I just don't think your bookshelf's trying to talk to you.
The irony.
Yeah, it is. Not only is it trying to talk to her, he's the one doing the talking.
Mm-hmm.
And now they sit down, him and Donald, and have a beer on the porch.
It's like we've forgotten who we are, Tom. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers.
There's Cooper's philosophy.
Yeah.
And then Donald.
When I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day. Some gadget or idea. Like every day was Christmas. But 6 billion people. Just try to imagine that. And every last one of them trying to have it all.
Which is a diagnosis of the world to some degree and is a problem,
Explain to me that line. Because I could not get past the line in my head. Does he mean that we had 6 billion people back then? Because we have 8 billion people now.
We're 8, yeah.
Yeah. So is he talking about, was that the numbers in 2014? Was it 6 billion? Or was he saying that 6 billion people died and this is what's left? That's what I couldn't figure out, trying to have it all, possibly died trying to have it all. I don't know.
It's a good, my gut has always been, and that it was the population when this film came out.
Okay.
That's been my gut, but I agree with you. It's if they were saying this started in the future, it should have been 10 billion.
Right.
If they were if they're saying that 6 billion people have died, this line is not delivering that emotional. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you would want to be super clear about that. So I don't feel like that's what it is. But yeah, it's a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But we certainly are in this world where the quote unquote developed world uses up 80%, I don't know what the numbers are, of the resources.
Yeah.
And as standard of living is coming up in the underdeveloped parts of the world, well, they want to be able to live the same lives that we've been living.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the world doesn't have that many resources, and of course we, liberal guy that I am, we've screwed it up for everybody else because we've caused all this climate change, which is mostly affecting in much stronger ways the developed world that is just trying to catch up,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why this film is almost prescient with the stuff that they're talking about, because our climate change gets worse. And then now we've got the advent of AI and how much that's going to tax our natural resources and things of that nature. It's just like, it seems like we're barreling towards this with tech bros who want to start exploring, colonizing other planets, for God's sakes.
Yeah. Well, let's just burn out this world and we'll just go find another one.
Yeah.
This world isn't so bad. And Tom will do just fine. You're the one who doesn't belong. Born 40 years too late or 40 years too early. My daughter knew it, God bless her. And your kids know it, especially Murph.
I think Donald really gets Cooper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember, I mean, Donald is his late wife's father. And so I imagine he was, there was conversations there the whole time and what have you. And I bet Donald wasn't the biggest fan of Cooper and felt like his daughter was marrying someone who wasn't 100%. Like, I feel like he's always been a dreamer. And so it's like, it probably wasn't something he was 100% behind, And so this back and forth, because you tell Donald is much more of a grounded person. Cooper is the one looking to what's next.
I love this moment because this is why I have this feeling about Donald of he doesn't like all of Cooper.
Right.
But Cooper is family.
Yes.
And he does care about him and does see him.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this last moment, he's kind of giving him a gift.
Well, we used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Cooper, you were good at something, and you never got a chance to do anything with it. I'm sorry.
Maybe that's the first time he's really understood. Like, I don't think he understood Cooper until after his daughter and Cooper's wife died. And they had to come together to raise the kids and figure it out. And so he's grown to understand Cooper a bit more. But as you said, probably doesn't like all of Cooper, but understands him in that moment. It's a nice bit of understanding to get.
I've always felt, I don't know how you feel, I feel that Donald actually was a farmer.
Oh, very possible. Yeah, very possible. Right.
Like he's the opposite. He's the Tom side of I do want to be staying in the land.
Right. Oh, that's the line of the movie, in my opinion. It's true. Where's our exploration? Where is that gone? And this idea of focusing on the dirt, of course, we're focusing on just what's in front of us instead of the future.
I mean, I think so much of our world has become focused on fame, money, power.
This is what they want us to be focused on. They want us to be focused. I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but they do. They want us focused on just what's in front of our faces so we don't see the bigger picture, that the things that they're doing. There's nothing people who want to control a world or an environment want more than to make a majority of people be distracted by things so they don't see what the people in control are trying to do to keep them in control, to satisfy their own impulses for control and for wealth. And we're so focused on our dirt. The dirt could be our phones. The dirt could be our TV shows. The dirt could be just what's in front of our faces. But there are people who are invested in seeing the bigger picture so they can reap the benefits of it,
There's the great moment in the speech from Network where he says,
"We sit in the house and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone." Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad.
That's great.
And we're at a baseball game, which I think is great because we're going to see a baseball game later on in this movie in a very different way. Donald is a bit grumpy about the game.
In my day.
Yeah.
But I think this is what passes for baseball. I think this is actually a professional baseball game in the future because they're wearing the Yankees hats and stuff, Yeah.
And the one person who's not upset about the school's decisions is Tom.
Yeah.
He wants to be a farmer.
Yep.
Like that's, he knows that's not what his father wants, but that's what he wants. A grounder gets hit to a player and he reaches down and does not pick it up at all and looks up and we're like, what the hell is going on? And then we see what at first I go, is that smoke rising in the distance? And we realize it's dust. Yeah. And that's when the air raid siren hits or the dust siren hits and everybody gets up and leaves that game.
Yeah.
Now they're driving through the dusty town. Again, Christopher Nolan likes to make everything real in camera. So they have massive rigs. It's not just, they have giant fans that are used to create wind in movies. You probably picture what they look like. Well, what they basically created was a train of fans. They have one truck, like multiple fans on wheels that they can drive with the truck that's, in the picture car.
Oh, wow.
Along with, so they can continue to blow this dust as they move through this town.
Right.
And the dust itself isn't just dust; it's some kind of a manufactured for the movie material that they knew would stick on things the way it's like we've seen in lots of movies where they did materials tests to go, well, we want dust that has these properties, and they developed it. But that also meant that they had to clean up the town because this is a real location. So after they did this, they had to clean everything up and bring the town back to where it was.
Oof.
Gang, let's mask up. Tom, Murph?
Yeah.
Check.
And it's obvious that this is not their first rodeo, and it's scary and distressing. We get back to the house.
Murph, Tom, you guys shut your windows?
And Murph runs up to her room, and we see that no, she didn't. And when dust is blasting into the room, now, the way it's falling is odd. It's falling in these straight lines.
The ghost.
And again, it's the mystery. One more little clue in the mystery. And now, I think for the first time, Cooper is going, oh, something is weird.
Yeah.
Something. At first he didn't, because your kid says there's a ghost in my room. It's like, sure, there's no such thing. And now he's going, oh, something's going on.
It's not a ghost.
And he tosses a coin, and the coin falls really fast.
Yep.
It's gravity.
And now he takes that notebook that she was looking at.
It's not Morse, Murph. It's binary. Thick is 1, thin is 0. Coordinates.
Again, we're laying out little pieces of this mystery.
Yeah.
We go through a bunch of maps. Finally, he finds the correct coordinates. Cooper heads out to the car.
I can't miss this.
Grandpa'll be back in a couple hours, Murph.
But you don't know what you're gonna find.
And that is why I can't take you.
Which is a great dad line. Yep. So he says no to her. He goes back in to get some other stuff in the house, calls out to her. She doesn't answer. He assumes that she's just gone. He gets back in the car, is driving, drives for a while, reaches over to the blanket in the passenger seat, grabs it, and Murphy is under it. I think McConaughey's shock at this moment is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, this is what a young Cooper would have done too.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You think this is funny? Huh?
You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me.
And with very little time,
yeah,
he hands her the map and says, well, make yourself useful. And you see that smile, and he's glad she's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so obvious that he wants it. The relationship. I mean, we have no idea what the hell's going on in this world.
Yeah.
But their relationship is so solid. You know what I mean? That I'm just in for them.
Yeah, 100%.
We drive off into the night. She falls asleep. I think Nolan does an incredible job of making you feel the isolation, the distance, the you're completely alone and away from other humans, kind of like you're flying out in space,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, good point.
And they get to a gate with barbed wire.
I think this is the end of the road.
Didn't you bring the bolt cutters?
That's my girl.
Again, it's that sync between the two of them.
Yep.
He goes up to the fence with the bolt cutters, and before he could do anything, he gets hit with this super bright light. We hear this loud voice say,
"Step away from the fence!" Don't shoot. You're not armed. My daughter's in the car.
You hear something that sounds electric going on, and where a light comes and hits Murph, who is scrambling back in the cab of the pickup truck from something.
Don't be afraid.
And so after this moment, we're now in the interrogation room. We're in some space. We hear a voice. We don't see who's talking.
How did you find this place?
Where's my daughter?
Then we see what Coop is seeing, and we just see an empty room.
Yeah.
There's no person there. There is this strange rectangular shaped metal thing. But I think when you see this movie the first time, you don't even think that that's what's talking to him, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, why would you? It's so unusual. Yeah.
You had the coordinates for this facility marked on your map. Where did you get those coordinates? Where's my daughter?
Don't make me take you down again. Sit down.
And we realize that this strange thing is what's talking to him. And I think, I'll just say it right now.
Yeah.
Tars and Case, these robots that we're going to meet, are two of the most amazing designs and unusual designs in any science fiction movie ever, I think.
Yeah.
And the other thing I will say is I think that the shape of this strange robot things, to me, looks suspiciously like the monolith from 2001.
100%. 100%. Absolutely. That was the influence for the design of these things. Because except that they're talking back, right? And having information, and they become essentially another human-like character in the film,
Yeah. Very much the opposite of Hal,
Yeah.
in fact.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
And it's so funny. I actually think this is like a classic trope of can you trust the robot?
Right.
In 2001, you cannot trust the robot.
Nope.
In Alien, you cannot trust the robot.
Yep.
In Aliens, you can trust the robot.
Right.
In Interstellar, it ends up that you can, and it's the humans that you can't trust,
Yep.
And we should say that not only is the voice of this robot the great, great Bill Irwin, but he's actually inside this thing for most of this movie.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. How do you see to have the back and forth? Is he just listening to have the back and forth? I mean, I see the logic because you're playing off of the emotions and the facial movements that McConaughey is giving you, or whoever he's in contact with is giving you. So I see the logic of it, but this is fascinating to be inside the thing.
So I had no idea that Bill Irwin was actually inside this thing until I started doing the research. And it is fascinating. The first thing that Nolan wanted was he didn't want anything to look remotely human. That's always been, with tons of sci-fi, as we just mentioned a few, the human-shaped robot. You got C-3PO, you got all the ones in Alien and Aliens.
Right.
And and what's really crazy about TARS and Case is we're now seeing actually robots today being built, and a lot of them are being built to be human shaped. And Nolan was like, I want this to be a machine. I want this to be so clearly not human and different that we never kind of anthropomorphize them because of how they look,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so the first thing he said, now I couldn't find anything where he said, I want to make something that looks like the monolith from 2001. I have no evidence of that, but it looks like that to me.
Yeah.
But his idea was, I want a block, just a physical block that is rectangular, and then figure out ways that we can do stuff with this. So this is how they approached it. What they did was they got, it sounds like high-end Lego to build this block that are tiny little pieces. And then they each were able to rotate and turn. I'm doing hand gestures so that everybody can see clearly what we're talking about. But each one could rotate and turn so that, and they just took this block with these little, made out of these mini blocks, and went, how many different things can we do with this?
Right.
How could we, if we had this, could it carry something? Could it touch something? Could it pilot something? Could it grab something? And so they kept making smaller and smaller blocks and playing with them to make this happen. But then the next thing that Nolan wanted was, because Nolan likes practical things.
Yeah.
He wants practical, real things on set. He didn't want to create characters made out of that were CG.
Right.
And although they do, there's sometimes that these robots are CG, but he wanted them human. And so he went and found a human actor. I think he must have really been thinking of like Yoda and, all of these great characters in the Star Wars world, and found Bill Irwin. And I'm sure you have some biographical material on him because he's fascinating.
Yeah.
But what they did was, first they built this whole thing, this whole box out of aluminum. And it's like the box is the front.
Yeah.
And then Bill Irwin steps into it from behind, and he had things to grab to move the arms and to move the legs. And it was relatively light because it was made out of aluminum. And what happened, Bill Irwin became a real collaborator because he's in the shop with the guys, and he's going, well, I can't move this, or it would be easier if this was like this. And they're making adjustments to the design and how it's going to work. And so they're exploring with like the little thing, what are all the things that we could do with this machine? And then Bill Irwin is experimenting with this body type, and what can I do, and how can I move, and how can I make this happen? And then they come up with the decision to switch the exterior surface from aluminum to stainless steel. I don't know how many more times heavy stainless steel is than aluminum, but it is way. And so the newer version was suddenly over like almost 200 pounds.
Wow.
And so now Bill Irwin, who is not a huge guy, cannot really manipulate this thing properly. So then they had to create essentially a pneumatic system within the whole thing so that he has extra power to move it around. So it's kind of like what I would compare it to is it's Ripley and the autoloader in Aliens. That's essentially what he's in, is he's in a thing that he's inside a machine. And then he is controlling it. And I swear, from everything I can tell, anytime they are talking to TARS, Bill Irwin is inside that thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. That's why listen, you can do it with voiceover and be just as seamless, right? But clearly Bill Irwin wanted to be a part of this thing in his own way. And I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at his history, just to kind of use that as a segue into his biography. I mean, he grew, his father is an aerospace engineer. Let's just start there.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. His father was Horace G. Irwin. He was an aerospace engineer. His mom was a teacher. But he also graduated from the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey's Clown Circus in Florida, and then received a MacArthur Genius Grant in 1984. So this is an incredibly intelligent guy who clearly sees that there's something connective in his talent with his body and the usage of his body and the moving of his body. He's well known for creating plays using mime work. His first wife was a choreographer, and they both won a Tony for their choreography for a play that they did on Broadway. He won a Tony back in 2005 for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, doing it on stage as well. And he's been nominated. You did?
I saw him in that, yeah.
Yeah, he's been nominated for 2 other Tonys for Largely New York, and also for acting in that as well. And remember, he's in the Don't Worry, Be Happy video with Robin Williams, and he gives as good as Robin Williams gets in terms of the physicality that he plays with there in the movie. So the video rather. So it's no surprise because Bill Irwin has a decades-long history of physicality being important to his performance, that he wanted to be inside this thing and wanted to be able to go back and forth with the actors on set. I'm sure there was a real kind of interest in him creatively to take this on. So I wish I knew how Nolan bumped on Bill Irwin and put him into this role. Had he seen him and stuff? Had he explored what he could do? Because he clearly wanted a collaborator on this and was open to having Bill Irwin working with his people, because that's extra money to do something like this, to create something to make him be inside of it. Yeah.
Well, what's so funny is it lines up exactly with what we were saying with Hans Zimmer, is that he goes, here's this interesting guy who has all these interesting talents. What if I bring him in, and what is he going to come up with? I'll tell you my first experience with Bill Irwin, which is I remember the first time I became aware of him, he was on an episode of The Cosby Show. And in the episode of The Cosby Show, at one point, he has like a big steamer trunk, and he opens it up, steps inside, and then he walks downstairs to disappear into the trunk. And it's like the most seamless. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's like this incredible body control. And then I'd seen him, I think he was in a play at Berkeley Rep that I'd seen him in. And then maybe 6 or 7 years ago, some friends of ours were at a theater company, and they said, you've got to go see the Bill Irwin's one-man show. And we went to a little 99 seat house place, and he does a night of Beckett. He's a Samuel Beckett expert.
Wow.
And so he did Beckett monologues, and he did Beckett scenes, and and I'm not the biggest Beckett guy. Like Beckett, I've seen one play where I was like, okay, that was amazing. And some of the times, because particularly when you see bad Samuel Beckett, there's nothing there, And watching Bill Irwin go through every single word, all these abstract words that don't quite make sense, and all of this, all of it made sense. It was all like right there. He's so great. He's great.
Yeah. One of the greats for sure.
By the way, one thing I had to look up, there is a rumor that's never been proven that Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote the book 2001 and wrote the screenplay with Kubrick, has totally denied forever, which is that the reason that the computer is named HAL, HAL, is because if you add one letter to each of those, it becomes IBM. And so I was going, and of course, like I said, this has been denied. There's no evidence that this is really true. So I'm sitting there going, what does TARS and Case mean? And Kip is the other one. Well, Kip is named for Kip Thorne, who's the scientist.
Right.
That Kip is the disassembled one. But so I was playing letter games with these things. I was looking on the internet, seeing if I can find something. And people have said that they think that TARS might be for star. And I forget what someone said Case might be by rearranging them. But the answer is we have no answer. And of course, Christopher Nolan is never going to tell us what these names mean.
Right. They're unusual and they're memorable for sure.
What, do you still think you're a Marine, pal? Marines don't exist anymore. I got grunts like you mowing my grass.
Again, Nolan is just peppering in tiny bits of information that we don't quite understand.
Yeah.
But you don't look much like a lawnmower. I think I'll turn you into an overqualified vacuum cleaner.
No, you won't.
And then, strangely enough, 2 movies in a row, we have Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do want to ask you something before we get into Anne Hathaway. This is the second example of Cooper having an issue with machines. And it's fascinating, right? Because he said, well, we're going to take this memory, whatever it is, out of the drone and put it to good use, like something humanitarian. This is a guy who talks about reaching for the stars, who talks about getting off the planet, who talks about exploring, yet he has a serious issue, kind of like the Mandalorian with droids. He has a serious issue with this technology, this kind of technology. And I wonder about it because he certainly made himself an expert in this technology. Sure. So is his anger at the machines misplaced? Or is his anger just the machines are an extension of his anger at the scientists who created these machines and the people in charge who use these machines for wars and what I imagine as I extend my mind out on this, to subjugate people, considering the fact that TARS was threatening to throw him down to the ground again. I'm sure that's not the first time he said that to someone. And so that's what I'm looking at this stuff. It's an interesting, how can I know the word dichotomy or hypocrisy that he wants to aspire for this exploration, but part of exploration is also technology, but he has an issue with technology, even though he's become an expert at it. So it's a fascinating mixture of contradicting philosophies or points of views.
So I had an initial response, which I will share with you, but then as you spoke, I think I came up with a better answer to this question.
Okay.
So my initial response is Cooper's a humanist, like he is about humans exploring, humans doing this, humans doing that. I think the idea of robots doing things for humans would fall against we need to grow and move and do all that stuff. That was my initial, and I think that's true of his character.
Sure.
But then what I realized, if we are correct that his crash over the strait was because a robot took over control of his plane, then it would give him an even better reason for
that.
This.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I can absolutely get behind that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're taking a risk. He's in ex-military security. They're old and their control units are unpredictable.
It's what the government could spare.
Who are you?
Dr. Brand.
I knew Dr. Brand once. He was a professor.
What makes you think I'm not?
It's funny coming off of Anne Hathaway from Devil Wears Prada into, I really feel like Dr. Brand is a character. Like she's really created something that's very different. Whereas I think in Devil Wears Prada, I'm not saying she's playing herself, but it's more that kind of a role. You're supposed to be a natural human as opposed to what she does here.
Right. Interstellar's 2014, Devil Wears Prada
2006.
2006. So I would argue that she's grown as an actress from 2006. I mean, having been through Becoming Jane, Rachel Getting Married, The Dark Knight Rises. So she's and Les Miserables. So she's won the Oscar by now for her work. So I think what she brings to this character, just her opening scene here, is strong and powerful, and it's so different than what you see in Devil Wears Prada. So this is Anne who's been through the wars of her career, being called the theater kid, being mocked and ridiculed for wanting that Oscar so nakedly, obviously, and now, or being nakedly obvious about how much she wants the Oscar. And now we've got this Anne who's been through all of that. And so what she brings here, I think, is some really powerful stuff. Just from the opening scene, even, this is a woman now, seasoned by experience and pain. And you can see that on her face. And she talks about how Nolan like kind of rescued her in a way because she was kind of lost after the whole Les Miserables and the backlash against her, and of course the divorce with her first husband, who turned out to be a con man. So there was a lot here. So she kind of talks about how Nolan kind of pulled her out of that to give her this role and give her a shot to show what she could really do.
Yeah, it's so funny, like the difference in what she's asked to do, because what she's asked to do in Prada is be an ordinary person who's a little bit overwhelmed, to feel just like one of us.
In her 20s.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. A young person. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whereas here, I think there's mystery around her from the moment she walks in this room.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
100%. 100%. And you could see it all over her face, you know? Yeah.
And one of the things that happens, basically a general rule, is if you have two attractive people of the opposite sex, or sometimes of the same sex, they will be attracted to each other, like in almost every movie. And this movie handles that with such a deft touch. And one of the first moments is right here. Wasn't near as cute either. Like, that wasn't near as cute.
Yeah.
He's almost the only hint that there could be attraction between these two people.
Well, I think there'd be more attraction from him towards her than her towards him, because we know what her ulterior motive is here, right? When we find out when we watch the movie. But I think she's making a feminist stand here by being like, well, why wouldn't you think I'd be a professor? You know, there's a bit of a pushback on that, calling him out on that.
Yeah.
But he defaults to that man thing of trying to be cute with the flirty language. But I think she's not having it.
Yep. Yep. She turns and starts walking right away as soon as he says that. And then, which is great, is then Cooper gets honest.
Please, Dr. Brand, I don't have any idea what this is. And I'm scared for my daughter, and I want her by my side. You give me that, I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Get the principals and the girl in the conference room, please.
Your daughter is fine. Bright kid. Must have a very smart mother.
Which I love. It's a great line. Yeah.
It's pretty clear you don't want any visitors. So why don't you just let us back up from your fence and we'll be on our way? Huh?
It's not that simple.
Well, sure it is. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about this place.
Yes, you do.
And she opens the door into this conference room. Again, the movie is a mystery, mystery. You know, like you're like, okay, where are we? What the hell is going on? There's people in suits, which, by the way, I mean, I'm not wearing a suit now, and I'm telling you that if there's a blight taking over the earth, it is casual Friday for me. I'm not suiting up to save the planet. That just seems silly. But for these people, that they're all nicely dressed. And of course, as soon as he sees Murph, he runs right to her.
Yeah.
Dad.
And they hug, and then we hear from off camera,
"Hello, Cooper."
I'm so happy that Christopher Nolan found Michael Caine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing, the way they, and I think this is, and every screenwriter who listens to us, because it's one of the compliments we get all the time, Steve, is that our show is kind of like a film school for some people who want to get into it. And it's an honor to hear that from people who say that. And pay attention to how the mystery is being rolled out here. This is how you keep an audience captive. You make every section of the unrolling of the mystery interesting and captivating and leave you wanting to know more. And every surprise has to build upon the surprise from before and be just that little bit more interesting, a little bit more powerful, a little bit more engaging. You know, and so them opening the door. The first Dr. Brand, it's not Michael Caine that greets him, which could have been the easy out. It's the daughter. So now we've introduced Anne Hathaway. Now he comes in, who is talking to Murph, but Dr. Brand, the Professor Brand, who is Michael Caine's character, they're sitting next to each other. So already you're like subconsciously in your mind, or quickly you're thinking, oh, they've been conversating. So that adds even more credibility to Murph, that she's able to talk to a guy like this about scientific stuff before she runs into Cooper's arms. So all this stuff is being laid out, and little seeds are being dropped here as you go further into the movie, which is great.
It's a great point. And I think like the way I was thinking about it is that it's like, because my students would always go, well, I need to explain everything that's going on so everybody understands. And it's like, no, that's not actually, your job is to make it interesting. Like your job is to hold your audience's interest. And where it's sometimes explaining everything actually lessens their interest because then they
Yes.
go, oh, I know what's going on.
And then they might try to get ahead of you, which removes the mystery, Steve. Yeah.
Exactly. If they know what's happening, it's not exciting anymore. It's solving the mystery that makes it exciting, except you also get into what I would describe as lost territory, which is that you just keep feeding mystery. No, look at this weird thing and this weird thing and this weird thing. And at a certain point as the audience, you start to go, oh, there's never going to be an explanation. Like the thing about Interstellar is in the end they go, and this is what it is. And you go, and this is the other thing. The more mysterious you make the thing, the more you have to, the higher the requirements to deliver on. Because at the end you have to go, wow, that was all worth it, all that mystery. You know?
The payoff. A polar bear. Ugh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I so remember when I turned on that show. I was like, oh, you're just fucking with me. This is just fucking with me.
Yeah.
And then William Devane pops up.
Explain to me how you found this facility.
Kind of accidentally, sort of stumbled upon it. We were on a salvage run. We came
You're
across
sitting in the
fence.
best kept secret in the world. Nobody stumbles in here. Nobody stumbles out.
One of the greatest actors that never got his full due. And I would say one of the greatest John Kennedys I ever saw on screen.
Oh, yeah.
William Devane. It was the 1970s movie or 80s movie. I can't remember the movie he was Kennedy in, but I remember it was a TV movie and it was just amazing. Amazing.
It's Cuban Missile Crisis.
That's
it's
it. Yes.
Yeah, it's 13 days in October. It's not, because there's the Kevin Costner one that has a something days. But
13 days. Yeah. Missiles of October. That's what it was.
Missiles of October.
Yes. 1974 TV movie. For those of you old enough to remember it, you know it's a good movie. For those who've never seen it, find it on YouTube or one of these free things and watch it. It's really good. But I mean, Devane has just been such a fantastic actor. Series regular on Knots Landing for 266 episodes. Remember Testament, that film he did in 1983, which was kind of rocked me as well. Black Beauty, he was in the TV miniseries.
Oh shit! I totally blocked out Testament until you just said it. And now that freaked me out. I remember that.
Right? It was an intense show or a film rather. And so remember he was in Payback, the Mel Gibson movie as well. So it's such an incredible actor and has that kind of teeth, has those memorable teeth, that Boston accent or the New England accent. And I love that you just immediately go, oh, this is serious shit. If William Devane is here, this is serious shit. You're paying attention. It's great.
Cooper, please cooperate with these people.
Look, it's kind of hard to explain. We learned these coordinates from an anomaly.
What sort of anomaly?
I hesitate to term it supernatural, but it definitely wasn't scientific
You're
initially.
gonna have to be specific, Mr. Cooper, right now.
And they keep pushing him to get an answer, and he keeps resisting until finally Murph jumps in with, it was gravity. And the second she says gravity, the reaction around the room is huge.
Yep.
Particularly from Wes Bentley, who plays Doyle.
Of course, Wes Bentley, you guys know him from American Beauty, and of course, recently in the Yellowstone series, playing the put upon, castrated, I guess, in essence, brother there, or the youngest son there of Kevin Costner in the Dutton Ranch. So, yeah. Wes was always interesting. I always thought Wes was going to be bigger than he was. Maybe he did too, but some of the choices just never really kind of panned out. But he had that kind of mix of Keanu Reeves, Nicolas Cage type of energy when he was younger, and I thought for sure he'd be doing more things than he does. But he's in here, so
it's got to be tough. I mean, not that anything like this has ever happened to me, but to be labeled as the potential next movie star.
Yeah,
because there was a moment. Because the thing is, if you don't fulfill that, like you and I are character actor guys, if we were going to,
Totally.
like there's a wide range of stuff, and we don't have to hit the pinnacle.
Right.
But if someone says, "Hey, this could be the next Brad Pitt, the next Tom Cruise," and you're not.
Yeah,
it's tough. People, no one's going to hire you.
Exactly.
But I think he's good in this.
Yeah.
Well, what sort of gravitational anomaly? Where was this?
Hey, I'm real happy that you're excited about gravity, bud, but you're not getting any answers from us until I get assurances.
I love that he's negotiating. When they ask him what assurances, he covers Murph's ears and says,
like that we're getting out of here? And I don't mean in the trunk of some car.
To which I'm going to say, by the way, so Professor Brand is Michael Caine and Dr. Brand is Anne Hathaway.
Yep.
That's the way. She's also Amelia, but I can't quite call her Amelia. That doesn't quite make sense. She's Dr. Brand. So that's how I'm handling this.
Well, by the way, she's named Amelia for Amelia Earhart, which is something to think about.
Of course she is. I hadn't thought about that.
Don't you know who we are, Coop?
No, Professor, I don't.
You know, my father, Professor Brand. We're NASA.
And now that's an answer. Like finally we get an answer.
Yeah.
And rather than give an explanation via words, Nolan is smart enough to give an explanation via visuals, which we walk into a new space and we see the bottom of rocket thrusters.
Yeah.
I heard they shut you down, sir, for refusing to drop bombs from the stratosphere on the starving people.
Well, when they realized that killing other people was not a long-term solution, then they needed us back in secret.
Which, man, the bombing the starving people is 100%, I think, what will happen if we had some situation like this.
100%. 100%. And I mean, that was part of, that's part of Nolan's, not philosophy in terms of his desire, but it is something that he's highlighted in other movies. Dark Knight Rises, the same thing happens, right? They're going to cut off New York and bomb it to keep the Joker and all of them, the Tom Hardy stuff from spreading, what Bane's doing from spreading to the other areas. That happens all the time. And so you see that in his stuff. The other thing that's interesting here too, Steve, is the window into the society that we get. You mentioned this already a few minutes ago. Like there's little hints about what this society was like after it all started falling apart. The very obvious one is, well, I thought you were going to bomb the poor people. You didn't bomb the starving people. So you were able to, they changed their minds. But the fact that they created NASA in secret or put NASA together back in secret, why would they do that in secret? Why? Because we heard the first grade teacher say the excesses of the 20th century, so there would be a large populace who would have an issue with you trying to put NASA back together again. Is that what we need to be spending money on? We need to be spending money on feeding people and blah, blah, blah. Whatever's in front of us, that's what we need to be spending on, the problems in front of us, not thinking about the future, not thinking about the future issues and the continuation of our race. So our species rather, so if this was ever found out that NASA was around, there would be a revolt. They'd find this place eventually and tear it to pieces. So this is an interesting window as well, because we see that now. People complain all the time now. What were you spending money? Why are we going to the moon? Why are we going to the other places when we can't even feed our people? So it's an interesting little window into what the philosophy was with the people back in this film back then.
I mean, this is the why are we going to war? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why are we and that is obviously, everyone knows I'm a lefty, but conservatives can say the same things about liberal goals of like, well, why are you spending this? Why are you spending that? And the thing too is to me it's 100% motivatable.
Yeah.
If Jackson were starving and I couldn't find food and I heard billions or trillions were being spent on the most ridiculous, impossible long shot, because this thing is a long shot. I'd be pissed off.
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes total sense, and which is what they say.
Because public opinion wouldn't allow spending on space exploration, not when you're struggling to put food on the table. Blight, wheat 7 years ago, okra this year. Now there's just corn.
By the way, losing out on okra isn't the big. I mean, I like gumbo as much as the next guy, but wheat, corn, those are big things. The okra's like fine. We lost the okra.
The okra's the luxury.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people hate it.
We lost out on the cinnamon. What?
And we're growing more than we ever have. Well, but like the potatoes in Ireland and the wheat in the Dust Bowl, the corn will die soon.
And now I get to deliver, and I apologize in advance, a digression I've been waiting 10 years on the Cine-Files to give. Merely because I don't know if that's really true, but it is a great little tidbit that directly applies to this, and I've never been able to share it before, which is years ago, I read this article that was all about how important bananas are to world history. And one of the things they talked about that, bananas, we never had bananas in the United States because you couldn't transport them because they don't grow in the United States. But once we had trains and steamships, suddenly America's really started liking bananas. And I will give you a couple of things about this and explain how this relates to what we're talking about.
Okay.
So the first one, obviously, is we want to control the countries where the bananas are grown. And so National Fruit and Dole and all these companies became the powers there, which is where we get the term Banana Republic comes from our love of bananas. That is where that term comes from. It is not just the store with the clothes. The next thing that happens, and there is a connection here, which is crazy, is that, well, people were eating bananas. Bananas, apples were the most popular fruit, and bananas surpassed it by far.
Right.
And to this day are still the most popular fruit in the United States. And at the time, people really littered a lot. They were just throwing their banana peels everywhere, and people were slipping on them, which is where that whole joke comes from. And apparently, in some cities, it's an excess of banana peels that started their sanitation departments and street sweepers.
Wow.
Because people were throwing so many bananas around. And the banana at the time, banana is a monoculture. It's not really a monoculture. There are all sorts of varieties of bananas.
Right.
But in terms of the United States, we only eat one kind of banana.
Oh.
If you went to Brazil or Southeast Asia or any place, there's dozens. There's little bananas, big bananas, plantains, all these other things. But in the US, you go and you get a banana. And the banana they got at the time was called a Big Mike or a Grand Michel or something like that. But the Big Mike got affected by blight, exactly what is going on in this movie. And slowly but surely, the bananas started to disappear. And people were trying to find bananas. And so they would go to the store where there would be a sign, and the sign would say, "Yes, we have no bananas." The song, "Yes, We Have No Bananas," which I'm sure you've heard.
Yes, I have.
Comes from a blight. It's because the Big Mike went extinct. Wow. And then we replaced the Big Mike with the banana that we eat today, which is called the Cavendish. And the Cavendish banana, currently there is a blight. And we will probably not have Cavendish bananas 5 years from now.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is a real thing. This isn't like something they're making up for the movie.
Right.
And this is also, by the way, just to point it out, this is the major problem with monoculture. Monoculture is we're just growing one variety of this. If you grow 100 varieties of bananas and a blight takes out one of them, you're fine.
Right.
But if you're entirely dependent on one kind of rice, one kind of corn, one kind of wheat, you're much more fragile. Yeah. And so this is why we have seed vaults, which I don't know if you know that they exist, but there are up in the Arctic Circle there's one, and there are a bunch of others where we're just trying to keep all the seeds of all the varieties of food in case something like this happens and we have to regrow the planet on some level.
That makes sense. Again, got to think of the future, whether you like it or not. So that makes sense all around. Yeah. Oof. I didn't know that about the bananas. I thought I've seen many different bananas, but clearly not.
Well, you have. I mean, like if you see, if you go to the fancy section of your store, you'll see a little tiny red banana and a big green banana. There definitely exist.
Yeah.
But basically that big stack of bananas in the grocery store, they're all Cavendish.
Earth's atmosphere is 80% nitrogen. We don't even breathe nitrogen. Blight does, and as it thrives, our air gets less and less oxygen. The last people to starve will be the first to suffocate.
It's a chilling line. It's also, because I read this book from Kip Thorne, he says, probably not scientifically accurate. They'd probably starve first. So and it's so funny. Like when we do a movie like Braveheart or something, we're really on the history and checking in. Well, this one I'm trying to really be on the science. This one not so accurate.
And your daughter's generation will be the last to survive on Earth.
Murph was feeling a little tired and was wondering if she could take a nap in my office.
A, which is nice, and B, I think Murph's awesomeness is palpable to so many of these scientists.
Yes, yes. And of course, also, as she alludes to a little bit in that back with McConaughey, she's very clear that as a woman, she hasn't been taken as seriously as men are in this field. And so there's a little bit of even like gender connection that a young girl would be interested in the stuff. She wants to encourage that. She wants to make a connection with her, I'm sure. And so that's very important to people who are able to stake out a claim in a certain area that other people like them want to follow in their footsteps or have the same inclination or interests, it's very important to help them, and make a connection with them, to encourage them more.
Now you need to tell me what your plan is to save the world.
We're not meant to save the world. We're meant to leave it.
And we see that we have Rangers, which is the kind of ship that Cooper had been flying when he had his crash.
You sent people out there looking for a new home?
The Lazarus missions.
Well, that sounds cheerful.
Lazarus came back from the dead.
Sure, but he had to die in the first place.
I think this is a clue that for Professor Brand, Plan A is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because what we're going to discover is there are two plans. There's Plan A, which is we're going to send people. And if we can't send people, then we're going to send basically fertilized eggs to be raised later. So either we're going to save the people living on the earth, or they're all going to die, but we will still bring the human race back to life, which is Lazarus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love what he says. That means we got to die first. I love that.
Yeah. But Coop knows there's no planet in the solar system that could support human life.
Yeah.
The nearest other stars are 1,000 years away.
Cooper, I can't tell you any more unless you agree to pilot this craft.
So there's a certain point where movies with a destiny,
Yeah.
the logic becomes real circular.
Yeah.
And this moment of like, he was the best pilot, and it just happened that he's the guy who found the signal, and and it's not that it just happens because he sent the signal to himself, but it is very like, it's like there's certain Stephen King novels where it's like, he didn't know why he had to turn left, but he knew he had to turn left. And it's like, well, okay. And I love Stephen King novels, and I love this movie, but it is very circular.
It is circular, but everything in this movie is circular. Even
100%.
Right. So I think it's all about that, keeping with the theme to a degree. But I hear you. It's a bit convenient that the greatest pilot they have would stumble upon them. Why haven't they reached out to him by now?
Well, and frankly, I don't think they spend nearly enough time investigating Murph's room over the next 20 plus years, knowing that this is what has happened.
Right.
They should be going, this is really weird. Part of the answer is in the room. They would have found the watch and everything forever ago.
There's a way to pull all the way back out of this and wonder how much influence the future is having on this present moment. So it becomes like a circular thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is also why, that way lies madness. There's no reason to keep, this is what this movie is.
Yes, exactly.
And it has, I think it's not a cheat, but it is impossible for us to understand fifth dimensional beings and how they do things. Right. Therefore we can't, it seems circular to us, but based on the construct of the movie, that they're seeing an entirely different reality.
An hour ago, you didn't even know I was alive. I mean, you were going anyway.
We had no choice. But something sent you here. They chose you.
Well, who's they?
And now we cut to, I think he is so good in this movie. David Gyasi, who plays Romley.
Yes.
I think the subtlety of his performance and the softness and the gentleness is just, it's such a perfect counterpoint to all the other characters.
Yeah, he's an actor, a British actor born in London, who I have not seen in many things and only saw him, I think, in Interstellar, a couple of things, but he is consistent, been working all through the 2000s in movies and TV shows, and has really kind of started working a lot over the last few years. He was in Dark Knight Rises. He was in Cloud Atlas. He was, as I said, Interstellar, Annihilation, Hunter Killer. He was also a series regular on a series called Chuggington and Carnival Row, which was on HBO back in 2019. And recently 22 episodes of The Diplomat. So he's a guy who works all the time. I just don't always see the stuff he's in. He was in an episode of The Sandman as well, but just as a voice. So, but he is fantastic here in his energy. And I wonder why Nolan chose him for this and not Aiello for this. Because Aiello, I think, was the name. So he is such a small part in the movie. Why not put him in this? But maybe he felt, as you were saying, describing him, that energy that Gyasi gives is the energy he wanted for this character.
And finally, by the way, we're actually going to get some straight up exposition.
Yeah.
30 minutes into the movie, we hear that they detected the anomalies like 50 years ago, the gravitational anomalies. We connect this idea that Coop encountered one of the first ones when he crashed. But the important thing is the biggest anomaly is out near Saturn, which, by the way, is where they detect the monolith in 2001, is somewhere out near Saturn. I'm sure that that's on purpose, that they put it in the same place, because they have detected a wormhole.
Yeah.
And this wormhole leads to another galaxy. And Cooper says, which from what Kip Thorne says is true.
A wormhole's not a naturally occurring phenomenon.
Someone placed it there.
They?
And whoever they are, they appear to be looking out for us.
And this is what we find out's happened, is not only did they send probes into this wormhole, but they actually sent humans. And this is what the Lazarus missions are.
12 possible worlds, 12 Ranger launches, carrying the bravest humans ever to live, led by the remarkable Dr. Mann.
Yeah, he's remarkable, all right. We'll see when we meet him.
Yeah.
And what we hear basically is that they each had life support for 2 years in their pods. They could use hibernation to stretch that out. And their job was to assess the world, show if it has potential to support human life, and then go to sleep, essentially, and wait for someone to come rescue them, because there's no getting off of it.
Yep.
If they land on the world and it's no good, then they're just going to wait and die.
Yep.
Data transmission back through the wormhole is rudimentary. Simple binary pings on an annual basis give us some clue as to which worlds have potential. And one system shows promise.
One, that's a bit of a long shot, isn't it?
One system with 3 potential worlds? A long shot.
Brand is, and she's got a weird smirk on her face. She is an odd character. She has an odd kind of rhythm to her, you know?
Yep. When you rewatch the film after you've seen it, clearly because that's a rewatch, you can pick things out that she's doing. Yeah. Sometimes I say the dumbest shit. I apologize.
Listen, this is a time travel movie. In Interstellar, you could rewatch the movie before you saw it.
That's true. It's all circular. But like, when you go back and watch the movie and watch her performance, she's doing something really incredible. That in the first watch, as you said, she's unusual. Why does she react in weird? What's the smirk, all that? But when you go back and watch it, knowing her connection to Dr. Brand, to Dr. Mann, there's a whole nother way to read how she's reacting to everything, because she has a little secret. And there's nothing actors love more than having playing that they have a little secret inside.
Okay. So if we find a home, then what?
That's the long shot. There's a plan A and a plan B. Did you notice anything strange about the launch chamber?
Cut to the launch chamber. We look at it. I love the way Nolan reveals this, which is Coop tilts his head. And as he tilts his head, the whole camera tilts. Yeah. And we realize we're inside a centrifuge.
Yeah.
This is the space station. They're building the space station here.
Yeah. Crazy.
The first gravitational anomalies changed everything. Suddenly we knew that harnessing gravity was real. So I started working on the theory, and we started building this station.
But you haven't solved it yet.
That's why there's plan B.
But to be clear, because we spoil everything on the Cine-Files,
yes.
He has solved it.
Yeah.
He has already solved it, and he knows that it is not workable.
Yeah.
So he knows there is no plan A. He knows that Cooper is not going to save his children. That whole, go and save your children thing is bullshit, because Professor Brand's plan is all of them die and they go with plan B.
Yeah, yeah.
And so now we see what plan B is, which is we're in the lab and we see Dr. Brand with, this cylinder. And basically what we hear is we're going to send fertilized eggs.
The real difficulty with colonization is genetic diversity. This takes care of that.
Also, I would not trust science or technology to give me genetic diversity. And I think there's an arrogance to that I think is hilarious. So I'm smiling at this for different reasons than she's smiling at this. So yeah.
Well, I don't know what they did. I mean, they might have collected sperm and eggs from 10,000 people around the world, all with different genetic makeups, or they might be gene splicing in order to create genetic diversity. If it's the former, I think you could totally get genetic diversity. If it's the latter, I'm with you. I don't trust science.
Yeah, what about the people here? You give up on them? My kids?
That's why plan A is a lot more fun.
How far have you got?
Almost there.
You're asking me to hang everything.
on almost. I'm asking you to trust me.
Which the fact that he's lying to him right now is just, it's rough because I love Michael Caine, you know?
Yep. But you have to, and this is the horrible truth of it. Just he has to lie to get people to do things because what's important is the success of the species. And if you tell the truth, some people won't do it. The people who are most equipped might not do it, or most capable might not do it. And so, it's a horrible truth. Like Luthen in Andor, right? Right. I think he's kind of, at times, I think he's a bit of a despicable person because he's saying shit to people that he knows is not fucking true. Yet he's the one that needs to be staying alive until, of course, what happens in season 2. But to me, this is where I find these kind of people, I get where they're coming from. I get their points of view. So they're difficult to watch them and believe them because, they're kind of lying. But they have a bigger picture in mind that has to be,
I totally agree. And Luthen is an amazing character.
Yes.
And that speech where he says, yes, I know I'm doing terrible things. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Remember when I said, and maybe I didn't say it in the best possible way, that Miranda saying, I'm the only one who can do this job, that there is an arrogance and a danger to that mindset. Because yes, what you describe of what Professor Brand is doing is exactly right.
Yeah.
He sees that the only way to save the Earth is to create the lie of plan A in order to get plan B, because he knows that plan A cannot be solved.
Yep.
But he hasn't asked anybody else. He took that decision entirely on himself.
Yes.
And in fact, plan A can be solved and will be solved. Now, it needs a whole bunch of stuff to be solved.
Right.
But had he shared with Murph and with all the other brilliant people around him, I got this far, and I think we're fucked.
Yeah.
Well, someone else might have been able to go farther, but because he withheld it to himself, because he believed he's the only human on Earth that is capable of solving it, therefore, if he can't solve it, it can't be solved.
Are you trying to tell me there are arrogant scientists? This is breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I wasn't sure where to bring this up, but there is a huge movement to populate Mars, and it is being pushed by among the most brilliant people, certainly one of the most brilliant people on Earth, who is a very, very extremely arrogant person who believes that he can do things that other people can't, and that he has all the solutions for everybody else.
Right.
Like I have some problems with that.
Hate me all people can hate me all they want, but I don't trust a genius to have a humanity streak. I just don't. My experience with seeing geniuses and how they look at the rest of humanity is not equivalent to people who legitimately care fully for humanity. It's much more about achievement than it is about caring for humanity, in my opinion.
I think it's entirely dependent upon how you define genius. So if you go genius scientist or genius this, for me, Abraham Lincoln's a genius. Gandhi's a genius. There are genius. I think Jesus is a genius. There are all sorts of geniuses who are filled to the brim with love of humanity.
Interesting. I don't know. I guess that's interesting. I don't know if I see them that way, but that's an interesting point. Yeah.
Again, this is a ridiculous digression. But like one of the huge mistakes I think we continually make is that we think intelligence is one thing.
Right.
When the intelligence quotient is an average of a whole bunch of skills. Right. There are people that have a genius for compassion, that have a genius for music, that have a genius. Bill Irwin is a genius to move his body.
Right.
It's like the whole wonder of humanity is all the different ways that we can be geniuses.
Yeah. Good points.
Like
good
that's
points.
so. And I also think if you spend your time studying numbers, it doesn't leave a lot of room to build compassion.
Right.
And if you spend your time studying people, then maybe you will build a bit more compassion.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that arrogant people who think they have all the answers are can be very dangerous.
Yes. 100%.
Find us a new home, and by the time you return, I will have solved the problem of gravity. I give you my word.
And the camera pushes in on him, and then we're back home. And to me, at least, I didn't think about where the movie is going to go next.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't thinking about Murph. Right. I was just thinking about, finding a new planet.
Because that's movie logic. We're conditioned. Yeah. Okay, here's the problem. you're being recruited to solve the problem. The next step is him getting in that spaceship to go. But of course, the movie has to honor the relationship they've spent the first 30 to 45 minutes establishing the love between Cooper and Murph. So we have to check back in with that. Yet in our minds, we weren't necessarily thinking that, right? So it's great.
You know, in Apollo 13, there's the scene where Jim Lovell is with his son, and there's been the accident on whichever Apollo, I don't remember what it was, where it burnt up, and it was the door.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the whole scene where he has to comfort his kid because his kid's so scared he's going to die, and then something goes wrong on Apollo 13, and mom tells the kid, and the kid says, was it the door? That's the setup I think that I'm in.
Yeah.
Where the movie, where we're setting up a relationship with the kid, but the movie's about going off into space. But that isn't the movie we're in. The relationship with the kid is the center of this film.
Murph.
Go. If you're leaving, just go.
And later he's talking to Donald on the porch.
This world was never enough for you, was it, Coop?
What, because heading out there is what I feel like I was born to do? And it excites me? No, that does not make it wrong.
Which I agree with.
Yeah.
The fact that this lines up with his desires does not necessarily make it wrong. But Donald says...
It might. Don't trust the right thing done for the wrong reason. The why of the thing, that's the foundation.
I think that's a great counter argument.
Yeah.
And the foundation's solid. We farmers, we sit here every year when the rains fail and we say, next year. Well, next year ain't gonna save us nor the one after that. This world's a treasure, Donald, but it's been telling us to leave for a while now.
It's a great speech. It also has echoes to me, I don't know if you hear this, of the farmer's speech from Seven Samurai.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, the too much rain, too little rain.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So funny you bring that up. I was watching that again the other night for about an hour.
That movie holds up, huh?
It does. Yeah, you walked me right into that. Yes, absolutely. I was just reading again, Pluto, changing channel. I couldn't believe Seven Samurai was on Pluto. I was like, I'm watching this. Just sat there for an hour watching it. And you're right,
That's
the
awesome.
farmer stuff is so powerful.
And I'd like that Donald processes it and thinks about it. And I think there are parts of him that disapprove, and there are parts of him that go, yeah, this is what this guy got to do.
Tom will be all right, but you got to make things right with Murph.
I will.
Without making promises you don't know you can keep.
That's the part he's not going to do.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. He goes back up to Murph's room, and she's like barricaded the door, and he pushes his way in.
You have to talk to me, Murph. I need to fix this before I go.
I'll keep it broken so you have to stay.
A great retort.
Yep.
And then he says this thing that his wife said when they had kids.
We're just here to be memories for our kids.
Which is, again, we have the scene with Dr. Mann where he talks about parents and kids. We talks about who you think of when you die. You talks about what does it matter if we remember people after they're dead. These themes, these ideas of memory and parents and children go throughout the whole movie.
Yep.
I think I now understand what you meant. Once you're a parent, you're the ghost of your children's future.
That one's almost too on the nose for me. Like, I wish they hadn't used the word ghost, because he's literally the ghost of her future. We've already mentioned the word ghost, but it's still great.
You said ghosts didn't exist.
Look at me. I can't be your ghost right now. I need to exist. They chose me. Murph, they chose me. You saw it. You're the one who led me to them.
I think, I forget her name, but the actress playing Murph is so good in this scene.
Mackenzie Foy. Yeah.
That's exactly why you can't go. I figured out the message. One word. You know what it is? Stay. It says stay, Dad.
Which is what he's going to tell her.
Yep.
It's so painful.
Yeah.
And then he says exactly what Donald told him not to say.
Yeah.
I'm coming back. And he pulls out the 2 watches and tells her about the fact that when he goes through hypersleep, that because of relativistic space, he's going to age much more slower than she is.
Time will run differently for us.
Yeah. I mean, by the time I get back, we might even be the same age. You and me. What? Imagine that.
which they're not going to be the same age.
Yeah.
But to her, this is what sells it for her.
You have no idea when you're coming back. No idea. Oh!
And she throws the watch and covers herself with the blanket, and he is begging. And I think we get the sense now, like, oh no, time is of the essence. He actually, he has to leave this minute.
Yeah.
Hey, I love you forever. You hear me? I love you forever. And I'm coming back. I'm coming back.
And he goes back to the door, and just as he's heading out, that ghost knocks another book off that bookshelf.
Yep.
Which we're going to see later, because that's him.
Yep. I love that. This is so interesting, because you look at the philosophy here of the relationship. Cooper at times is as guilty of the things he's mad at other people in power of being, because he is, in essence, a person in power. He's in power over his family. And in this moment, they're having the back and forth. He is trying to get Murph to satisfy his need to have a positive ending to their relationship for now so that he can get on the ship. It's for him. She's not happy. She's in pain. She loves him. She doesn't want to let him go. She doesn't want to go. She's saying it says stay. You don't listen to me. But Cooper's desire, as Nolan's script and Jonathan Nolan's script lay out here earlier in his conversation with Donald, is we were meant to be in the star, look for the stars, not look at our place in the dirt. So Cooper is very much just like Donald in a lot of ways, or not Professor Brand in a lot of ways, because he's also telling little mini lies to satisfy his own belief in his desire and what he wants. And so here I know a lot of people can look at this scene and be like, oh, it's a father really trying to get his daughter and the daughter should meet him and the daughter should forgive him and the daughter should accept it. But I like the fact that she doesn't. I like the fact that this is something that carries through the whole movie. What happens here, because she isn't going to give him what he wants, because she has a right to her feelings and to process this as she sees fit. And he's got to deal with it because he's the one making the decision to leave. And he's the one making wrecking the situation. And he's the one that's also, in a way, selfishly pursuing what he wants to do. Because what he's, as you said earlier, Steve, the fact that plane crashed, the fact that he alludes to the fact that the gravity waves affected his career as a pilot, this is all unfinished business for him. Now the opportunity has come in. And instead of thinking about Murph, instead of thinking about Tom, instead of thinking about being there, he's thinking about himself. And yes, of course, it's doing for the rest of humanity. That's the thing he tells himself. And I think there's an element of that that's there, certainly. But I think it's very much about his own desire to prove to himself that he can lead a mission and be a captain again and matter again to himself. And so, again, it's interesting levels and complexities in the character of Cooper and decisions he makes here,
You brought up something when we did our bio of Christopher Nolan that I just am totally thinking about right now, which is Christopher Nolan as a parent. Because I think it's easy, very easy, to see Christopher Nolan as a person with a purpose, with a mission, with a destiny to be a great filmmaker. And so, and we talked too about there being no more wholesome, more real emotional relationship in any Christopher Nolan movie we can think of than between Cooper and Murph. And maybe that's what he's channeling is he's going off to shoot Tenet. He's going off to shoot whatever.
Right.
And the fight with the kid and him knowing I have to go do this thing and I have to leave my kid. And I am sure, because all parents do, that on some level he manipulated the truth or minimized or tried to make them feel better, all that stuff. And that's why this scene feels so real.
And I want to make sure people, I hope people don't say, I'm not being judgmental of Cooper. I'm saying this is something that's very human. The struggle, for parents, even more so, the struggle of your desires to, because you have a right to be a human being as well, to pursue the things that you want to pursue. But you also have to look at all the other factors that are involved here and the sacrifices that are being made in order for you to pursue the thing you want to pursue. And so I think that's fascinating to put that in this relationship, because as you said, it could have been a very conventional approach to this, but the fact that the pain of this breakup lingers through the whole movie, I think is a genius move by both Nolans,
I mean, that's what humans do all the time. Whenever we want what we want, we then try to present the thing that we want to the other person in the way that they want to hear it. So like, for instance, I haven't told you about my plan to turn the Cine-Files into an entirely musical show. But if I were to present that to you, I would probably start with how much I've always enjoyed your singing voice and love it and I just want more of an opportunity to hear you sing.
Yeah.
And this is what, we always try to present things in a way to fit it's like we have the key to someone else's lock and we're trying to go like, I want you to do this. And sometimes they're well motivated and sometimes they're, mixed.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, a book just fell off my shelf. It said stop.
It says, don't turn it into a musical.
Don't do this.
How'd it go?
I'm fine. It's fine.
Which, of course, it didn't.
Right.
Hugs Tom, asks him to look out for the place.
Hey, can I use your truck while you're gone?
I mean, your truck. I'll make sure they bring it back. Look after my kids, Donald.
And then it happens fast. Like, I really do think time was of the essence. And so he jumps in that car. I think the POV of the rear tire looking back at the farm shot is an amazing shot. I've never seen that shot anywhere else. And it has so much to it,
Yeah. Agreed, dude. Agreed.
And then the great moment, he looks in the passenger seat where that blanket that Murph had hidden under before, and he looks under it.
Yeah.
Which is not there. And then, and again, this is efficient filmmaking. This is dramatic filmmaking. As he is driving away from his home, from his family, from Murphy, we're hearing the sounds of the countdown for the launch.
Go for it. Main engine start. T-minus 10.
And so this is him leaving his house is the same as leaving the planet because emotionally that's what it is for him.
Absolutely.
There's nothing on this planet other than his family that holds him here.
Yeah. And I think that's why Donald understands, because Donald knows who Cooper is. He knew this day would eventually come, that Cooper would leave. Cooper's always wanted more. And I bet this is something Cooper talked his wife's ear off until she passed.
Oh, yeah.
About what I could have been, what I should have been. If only that gravity wave hadn't come through, I'd have been this or that. And so I'm sure that's something she talked about with her dad, Donald, many times. And so Donald knows that and has that. So that's why he's more understanding of the situation than a grandfather might be, because I think he suspects Cooper's not coming back either.
Well, of course. I mean, the odds of Cooper coming back are so ridiculously slim.
Right.
I mean, this is a crazy thing. And so, and what I like too is I think they clearly made the choice not to be Apollo 13.
Yeah.
We are not going to give you the minute detail of exactly how a launch works. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
We see it. We see him driving away. We hear the countdown. We see one or two shots of the launch.
Yeah.
And then we're out in space. And as the crew of the Ranger heads off into space, I think it is time for us to end part one of our exploration of Interstellar. Of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. The conversations that have been happening on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, under Cine_Files, the Cine-Files podcast on Instagram, and of course, on Patreon, where great conversations are taking place, are fantastic, and we love participating in those. If you haven't subscribed to the show, either on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or any of your other favorite podcast hosts, we'd love you to do so. That way you could be sure to get part 2 of Interstellar. And of course, if you want to support the show on patreon.com/the Cine-Files, you can get ad-free versions of the show, be on our Cine-Files advisory board, possibly participate in a future short like we did this week with our advisory board. And you could also get some of those perks, but not the advisory board, through Apple Podcasts if you're an Apple person. And I am at SR Morris on Twitter. John, how would folks reach you?
You can always find me at The Rocha Says on all social media. And of course, my YouTube channel, where we get into talking about film and television and entertainment as well. YouTube.com/John Rocha Says. Come and subscribe there as well. And our own YouTube channel, the Cine-Files YouTube channel, where we endeavor to go live once a month on that channel as well. Well, I mean, I don't know if we're going to do that anytime soon with these two films we're tackling back to back, but certainly that is something we do endeavor to do in the future.
I mean,
please.
We could always jump on do an extra live show. Those aren't the amount of research that these ones are. But I think that is it for this week. We will be back next week with much more research, much more science, and much more excitement as we travel interstellar.